shadows move slow, like blood on the snow. 4 young souls, Idaho, a scream swallowed whole. Who will know? The truth hides deep where the dark winds blow. Police lines blur, whispers in the air. Prosecutors stare, but do they even care? No voice for the voiceless, cries in the night, lies in the system. Black takes the light. No voice for the voiceless, the broken and lost. The truth's too heavy, too high the cost. Evil's a whisper, a knife in the dark. The system creaks, the machine won't spark. Conspiracy hums like a vulture's mark. Broken lives, just ashes in the park. Corruption's a shadow, it devours the weak. They silence the truth before it can speak. No voice for the voiceless, cries in the night, lies in the system. Black takes the light. No voice for the voiceless, the broken and lost. The truth's too heavy, too high the cost. Shadows move slow, like blood on the snow. 4 young souls, Idaho, a scream swallowed whole. Who will know? The truth hides deep where the dark winds blow. Police lines blur, whispers in the air. Prosecutors stare, but do they even care? No voice for the voiceless, cries in the night, lies in the system. Black takes the light. No voice for the voiceless, the broken and lost. The truth's too heavy, too high the cost. A whisper, a knife in the dark. The system creaks, the machine won't spark. Conspiracy hums like a vulture's mark. Broken lives, just ashes in the park. Corruption's a shadow, it devours the weak. They silence the truth before it can speak. No voice for the voiceless, cries in the night, lies in the system. Black takes the light. No voice for the voiceless, the broken and lost. The truth's too heavy, too high the cost. Whispers in the cafe, voices in the haze, jewelry spinning trays, can't be set in the blaze. Outcast hearts beating in the Bronx night maze. Kathy's indie zone hiding truths in the phrase. Custody queens, devil's advocate schemes. Lucy's morning star burning through dreams. True crime warriors seeking the truth. Birdies fly, cutting through the smooth. Unleash shadows, stories they pursue. True crime warriors chasing what's new. True crime warriors chasing what's due. Chasing who? Chasing who? Chasing who? Dago streets hum, secrets in the air. Tommy Drew's tune, decoding despair. Docket lines blurred, the lies in the care. Unfiltered lucky, the burden we bear. Paparazzi's cry, cutting through the night. Murder, metal, mayhem, justice in the fight. Bubbly waters ripple under dim light. A convict starts wrong from right. True crime warriors seeking the truth. Birdies fly, cutting through the snow. Unleash shadows, stories they pursue. True crime warriors chasing what's due. True crime warriors chasing what's due. Whispers in the cafe, voices in the haze, jewelry spinning trays, can't be set in the blaze. Shadows creeping, truth ain't sleeping, whispers loud, no room for doubt. Chains rattling, hearts unraveling behind the veil where stories shout. True crime warriors, seekers of light through the dark, through the night. Truth and transparency, battle and fight. True crime warriors chasing what's right. Coffee stains on broken dreams, unfiltered tales bursting at seams. Jewelers juggling, cane bees grind, outcasts rising, justice to find. In the Bronx tale where the stories weave, in the indie zone where hearts believe. True crime warriors, seekers of light through the dark, through the night. Truth and transparency, battle and fight. True crime warriors chasing what's right. Birdies chirp in the morning haze. Lucy's thoughts in a convict's maze. Pavarotti echoes a haunting serenade through docket decoders. The truth won't fade. The truth won't fade.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. The cafe is open for business, and we got a special day set up today. We have two amazing guests joining us today, all the way from the West Coast, guys. The Custody Queens off the clock. I'm super excited. These two are amazing. They put out some amazing shows. And jumped right into this head first when they jumped into the IDAHO4 case, which is what we're going to be breaking down today. I'm excited to see you all here for this as well. For those of you that have not yet subscribed to their channel, Custody Queens Off the Clock, what are you doing with your life? You guys need to do this and get this done. You will be absolutely beyond satisfied with what you guys see them putting out, which is why I'm so excited for them to join us today here at the cafe. We are open for business. That being said, make sure you guys hit that like button, share this out, let everybody know what we're doing over here. Make sure your cup is full. That being said, guess what, folks? You know what comes next. Let's do this thing, get this thing started, and here we go.
Flicker like broken halos. Whispers gather in the smoke-filled air. Tables carved with secrets and shadows. Every story's a wound laid bare. The kettle's boiling with a restless rage. Justice written on an unseen page. I sip the silence, bitter taste, waiting for the ghosts to show their face at the True Crime Cafe. We serve up the pain they try to hide away. Pour another cup of the truth you crave. Raise your glass to the names they betray. Cracked reflections are liars. Ashes fall where the guilty once stood. The jukebox hums like a funeral choir. Echoes pounding through the neighborhood. Every scar is a candlelit vow. We hunt the how, we demand the now. No more silence, no more disguise. We'll paint the night with sharpened cry. At the True Crime Cafe, we serve up the pain they try to hide away. Pour another cup of the truth you crave. Raise your glass to the names they betray. It's a battlefield hymn, a requiem dripping from the bottle's rim. The guilty write stories in invisible ink, but we'll drag it all up from the edge of the grave. At the True Crime Cafe. Shadow will pay.
All right, all right. There's that amazing intro song that Miss Molly, the videographer, put together. Again, grateful to see everybody here today. We got a great show set up today for you guys and two amazing guests. One of the two of the best and most upcoming new creators out here on YouTube, in my opinion. I caught their third show that they ever put out, and I was just stuck from that point forward. I couldn't help myself. They're amazing. They make some amazing points. They have a legal background, which is very important, especially in this case that we've been following because we all know why. They've been guests with Outcast, guests with Birdie, and if those two, those two, we love those guys over here as well. So it's my turn, and I'm excited. And I tell you right now, for the first time ever, you guys, I just told them the same thing. I'm a bit nervous, and I don't even know why. But that's okay. I'm sure it'll be great. Everybody, thank you so much again for joining us. Miss Sassy Catsy, Sarah Irish, SRBBB. Thank you to my Blue Crew for joining us. Josie West, great to see you. Deborah Polly Putnam, Monica 2025, and here Birdie's in the house. Guys, normally I would introduce everybody, say hello to everybody. There's a lot of people in here, and there's going to be a lot more. So excuse me, I'm just going to say hello and welcome, and thank you all so much for being here today. That being said, I think we're going to go ahead and bring up these two amazing ladies and get this show started. Good afternoon or morning for you. Thank you guys for joining us. How are you today?
We are great. We're so excited to be on, and thank you so much for having us. This is kind of moved fast for Kristen and I, and we're here with it, and we're just excited for today.
Yes, it was a little quick. I agree. Next time, maybe we can push it out a little further. I was just excited to have you guys here, and I think that's why I'm nervous, because it did happen so quick, but we'll make it work. It'll be great. You guys can make anything go good. In my opinion, I can tell you honestly. So
don't be nervous, Dago. Don't be nervous. If anyone should be nervous, it should be us. But I can tell you, I probably watched about 10 hours of you. I watched your entire live from yesterday while I was wrapping holiday presents for all the teachers at 1 a.m. But you have such an incredible and inquisitive chat. And I truly am just really grateful that you're welcoming us, and we should be nervous, not you.
I'm never nervous. And you can ask like my entire moderating crew. I'm not ever. And I don't know why I am. I don't know if I just feel like, I don't know. I just want to make sure everything goes right. And I have hiccups here and there. Anybody does. YouTube is not anything like, I have a videographer, I have a manager, a producer, all that helps me with everything. And the crew is amazing. They do so many things, but this, I have to do the backbone side to everything and make it all work. And I'm like, I got to make sure this goes right for them, blah, blah, blah. I want them to be able to want to come back and all that. So I guess that's probably part of it. And it did happen quick. I was trying to put this all together quick, and I was having mistakes. I sent the link over, and then I got a phone call this morning. I'm like, what did I do now? I kept screwing that up and this and that. So
it happens.
That's
just every day for us. Sam is used to me flying by the seat of my pants every day. So we're good, Dago.
Absolutely.
Kristen also doesn't sleep. So
I get that one. I don't either. I understand that completely.
I guess I'm the only one that sleeps around here. I sleep a lot.
I wish I could. 3 hours a night and I'm done. Ready to do it.
Sam can fall asleep in her office on the floor with the lights on, with people walking back and forth. It is a trait of her that I admire greatly.
Yeah, I could race you to sleep, no doubt.
I couldn't do it.
Kristen actually thought I fell asleep on one of these ones.
Now, I will say though, I spend a lot of time in here and researching and all that kind of stuff. So I'm probably in here 18, 20 hours a day. When I do go back to my life out here and I sit down on the couch, I'm gone immediately. I can't ever get through a movie ever. So
same.
It happens. It does happen. Real quick. Again, I said, seeing Birdie was in the house. Thank you, Birdie, for that right there. God bless, brother. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much, bro. It's great to see you. Great show last night, by the way. Always.
Oh, it was a great show, Birdie. Great show. Yeah.
He always puts on a great show over there. Him and Outcast both. I love both of them. They're amazing.
Well, you're right in that mix, Dago. We love all you guys. And like I said, I've watched hours of you just really this past week just to learn more about you, so Sam and I could be organically prepared for today. But I mean,
Sure.
you really, what I love about you is you go to the places that a lot of content creators don't want to go, even if it's not factually supported by the popular. I love that you do that because that elicits conversation.
Yes.
And it allows analysis. And that's what people are missing with this whole true crime community. We don't all have to agree, but let's collaborate and work through it.
Yes, I'm a commentary channel. I review a lot of other creators' work because I like to see their ideals, their input, their feelings on things. And we go back through, we review it, and then I always leave my platform open for people to come in, voice their feelings, opinions. A lot of places you can't do that. And that's one of the main reasons why I fully interact with the community, because I think that's important in my opinion on my side. And it's just one of those things that way everybody has a voice in this. Everybody has the ability to put their opinion in, because you just never know. One person could say one thing that could turn into something you have no idea what it could be. You know what I mean? So I've always done that. I think it's very important for everybody to be able to be involved. And I like going, like you said, to those places. It's gotten me in trouble sometimes, but I like going to those places that not everybody does, because nobody does. So somebody's got to do it. You know what I mean? And I love breaking things down. And I'm sure you noticed, I think you did the other day, sometimes my life, and don't worry, it won't happen today with you guys, I promise. But sometimes these shows go for hours. I go 5 hours sometimes, because I bring people in and we really break down pieces of this, whatever you want to call this, the evidence or not evidence or lack thereof, and things like that, and give people enough time to process while we're talking about it. So today's not going to be that way. I promise you. I would never do that to you guys. It gets away.
I do think it's a great point, though. And that's one of the reasons why Kristen and I love you so much, is because I think it's really important to deal with a lot of this evidence and stuff that's come out on a more micro level. Yeah. We're very used to the macro. And I think those overgeneralizations have brought this case to where it's at. And I think that's why there's so many people interested in this case, because they just continue to want us to look at the macro instead of the micro. So I think it's really important. And I think that it's really awesome that that's what you do. Yes,
I love it. And that's I'm sure you can relate. My understanding is you're one hell of an analyst, and that's what you do. She can analyze things, and I love that part of it. I would love to do something like that, because that's the side of this that if I see some little piece that you can ask my moderators, because we have conversations for hours. They're so exhausted with me. It's not even funny, but it's like, did you guys see this and that? And we break it down for 4 or 5 hours, and you're like, okay, what do you think? And they're out here. I'm sleeping, or you know what I mean? So we like to tear things apart, put it back together, and see what we come up with. So it's amazing. And I love that you like to do that. And that's what you do. So
we're ready for it. And what you do, and Birdie and Outcast both do this incredible. When I was watching Birdie's show yesterday, there was a couple nuggets, but somebody else will look at the same evidence. And when we've watched this video or we've listened to this audio over and over, and then it's like, you hear it for the 100th time and you're like, wait, that word, right? For instance, I don't want to get off topic, but I was listening to the Eric Growler interview, and we're 20 minutes in, and I'm like, okay, exactly what Maddie was doing in the back seat with her hands eating the mac and cheese, but you don't know how many people were in the car. People will just scroll over that. They will just scroll over that. And I'm like, that is such a huge piece of information right there.
Yes. We actually had the same conversation. Like I said, in the Discord, I'm always in there with the mods talking about, did you hear this one little? They were like, yeah, but what does that really mean? I said, that's the point. And there we go. So yeah, that was actually one of the topics we were on, because
I'm ready for that one. I'm ready for that one. That one was like,
not know that. I pointed that out a couple of times. I said, that's highly irritating, because, and we'll get into this too, but why is law enforcement not asking a follow-up question on something?
I'm ready for that. I'm ready.
That's one of my biggest deals.
Because I'm like, you asked for the text chain, but he even says, do you want the entire chain, or do you just want to go back to Saturday? And he goes, yeah, let's go back to Saturday. I'll wait for you to get there, because I am ready for that. I am ready
you're on
for
point.
That one.
Definitely on point. I have a lot of issues with these. and like I said, we're going to get to it, but I have a whole lot of issues with the law enforcement interviews and with no follow-up and any of that stuff. It's amazing to me. It really is. Thank you, Meg, so much for that. I feel like we could learn more about BK from the post-conviction hearing with Zach Holly Bobo. Good point. Good point. Thank you for that. So yeah, absolutely. But enough about myself and everything else. Why don't you guys, if you don't mind, give us a little bit about you guys, how you got started on this, who you are, and all that fun stuff, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll go for it, Kristen. So Kristen and I, we're both family law attorneys. We're licensed in California. We're also both certified family law specialists. We've been working together for, 11 years now. It's a story that we keep repeating, but I applied to work for Kristen on Craigslist, and it was.
I was advertising on Craigslist, so like whoa on both.
Yeah, and so we've been together ever since. And then family law really is our passion, and we've been doing it for a really long time. We're both litigators, and we just kind of started getting into this crime stuff. Really, it was Kristen that was in my office. And it started to take up more work hours than not. So we finally realized, hey, maybe we should start taking a look at the stuff that's actually fun for us to dig into. So Kristen kind of started us on this true crime junkie avenue, if you will. But it's been a lot of fun, and everyone's been so overwhelmingly positive and welcoming to us. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and Sam and I are more like sisters, and I think we've had 5 fights over the last nearly 12 years, which is pretty incredible. And Sam is used to me taking her on some very, very wild rides. And what makes us work so well is generally I'm really good at seeing the big picture, and Sam is really good at seeing like going through the analysis step by step, word by word. And so when we put our brains together, it's pretty incredible. But when Sam started with me, yes, we were advertising on Craigslist. And funny story, I said, who the heck is advertising for Custody Queens on Craigslist? This is wild. Who do I get? And hence I got Sam. So, and we both played Division I college soccer. So for all of the athletes out there, woo, woo. But yeah, that's how we started. Sam just didn't realize her office came with a baby crib when she started with me. And she actually sent me a picture or a video yesterday, and it was really special because my daughter was like a 1.5 at the time. She's now 11, and she's running around stomping on Sam's trial briefs on the floor. And I'm looking at my little daughter who's so tiny and so cute. She used to turn off Sam's printer all the time, and Sam thought it was like a technical IT issue. But I said, you didn't realize that when you joined me, your office came with a crib and then 2 more babies later. So it's just been a really fun and a very grateful journey on my end. And I couldn't have asked for a better partner to do this with.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I'll tell you right now, I am super happy you guys came out on this, because you guys have really made an amazing addition to what I feel is I'm supportive of all creators. I always have been. I try to push them. I've even written goofy songs supporting them and putting them all
good songs. I listened to one yesterday. It was really good.
Yeah, I do it just to, I think everybody, I've always thought that we should all be able to work together. I think we're all here and should all be here at least for one purpose, and that's truth, in my opinion. This case specifically points out there is not a lot of it out there, and there's enough of us out here that if we're supporting each other and lifting each other up and go in that direction, that we can possibly get to some truth one day, instead of working against each other and I got to get there first and I got to do this, and it doesn't work that way for me, and that's one of the biggest issues in some aspects. Now, we all know there's guilter channels out there, as they call them, that do not like anything we do, and that's okay. We've talked about that before, why does it matter? If you got what you think you wanted, you got the guy, he's convicted, he's in prison, you're good. Why is it a big deal that we're sitting here asking some questions about something that just doesn't make sense to us? We're not all going to agree. There's enough echo chambers out there that we don't have to. And I think it makes it more interesting when people do disagree. And if you can do it in a way that opens up the door for other questions that need answers, why not do that? And some of them don't see it that way. I respect it. That's fine. But I'm going to continue going forward until I get some of the answers that I need. That's why I do what I do. People keep asking me, why are you still talking about this, Dago? Why are you still talking about it? Because I don't understand it. I don't have the answers that I feel are the truth in my heart, and I'm going to continue to do that until it makes sense and I can get something out of it. So
yeah, I think that that's a great point. And Kristen and I talk about that a lot. It's just interesting because the more stuff that we're now getting to see and the more things that we're getting to analyze, I understand that there's those who believe BK is guilty, and fair enough. But, my general question with all of this is, if that is true, then why aren't we hearing more information or more arguments being made from the evidence? Like, no, this came out, and so this further points to BK. This further makes our position right. Like, we got the correct conviction. Because if you didn't, or if there was someone else involved, whatever you believe, if there's someone out there that actually did this, that should be important to everyone.
Yeah.
So you think that they would be going, no, this proves we're right, instead of, no, please stop talking about it, your wild theories.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And that's what's wild to me, is because I've never seen anybody say that or do that in a situation. They released, I know you two know, they've released so many things to us, which I believe, I've said this before, and this is just my own personal opinion. I believe that they only release and give us what they want to give us. They obviously aren't giving us all of it. We know there's very little truth in what they've given us. And we get to sit here and weed through this garden of what they've sent us and pull all these weeds out and hope that there's a couple flowers that are still standing when we're done. And you might get one, you might get two. The rest of it is all weeds, folks. And it's a mess. So it's what I don't understand about the whole thing. Like, why are you not looking at these things and seeing the red flags that we're seeing when we all see this? That's what doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And there's no doubt that we're missing things like that. Yeah. That's an absolute fact. There is a lot of redaction, period. No one can deny that there's redaction. Someone's like out of Sharpies with how much redaction has happened. Right. So that absolutely is true. So you can't, to me, it's not credible at all to say that we even have near what we would possibly need to really take the next step. So we have to speculate. But then when we speculate, we're crazy.
Exactly.
And go back to Outcast's video that we just talked about the other day about the 911 call. Yeah. If you can't see that the information we are getting is modified, scrubbed, altered, even just redacted beyond necessary redactions. And yes, Sam and I understand that things need to be redacted, but the amount of redactions is wild. But even beyond the redactions, the information is being altered and modified. Yeah. So I think you're 100% right, Dago. Everything has been very calculated from the onset of this case. So if you believe that we are getting everything, it's hard for me to objectively see how you're coming to that conclusion. And with all the people on the other side, Sam says it best. Why do you care that we are looking into this if you are so set in your convictions and you are so firm with what you believe? But even beyond that, why do we keep finding more things, right? Sam says you shouldn't care if we're looking under rocks, but the problem is we keep finding things under rocks. And when I look at some of these comments, mostly, I'm like, I bet you this person has never even downloaded a document or even really listened to the audio more than once. It's like bot comments or robot comments. And it's just wild to me that everyone is so set in just repeating and regurgitating what they're hearing from Nancy Grace. It's like, think for yourselves. And if you still come to that conclusion, I can respect it. I don't agree with professional legal opinion, but I can respect it. But stop just repeating what the comment above you says.
Agreed. That's a great point. And I've said the same thing. Like everything we go over and everything we review and talk about, I don't expect everybody to believe what I believe. And I make sure that I always say, this is my opinion. This is how I perceive this. This is what I'm seeing. But please take what we talk about and perceive it your own way. Break it down, put it back together, whatever you're going to do, and think about it and make your own decision as to what you think. And then let's talk about that. And if you still feel the way that you do, or if you don't, I absolutely respect that wholeheartedly. That's exactly the way it should be, in my opinion. I never want anybody to believe the way I believe. I'm, just because it's me or just because I said so, same with, I wouldn't want people just to say Well, Sam and Kristen said this, so that's what I think it is. Make your own decision. If that's what they're saying and it makes you think, great. Make sure it's your decision, though.
That's the whole purpose of lawyers, is to
Right.
have different people analyze the facts and present and interpret and, put forth your best evidence. If everybody was just coming to the same conclusions, then there would be no need for a legal community or a court process, because you're automatically guilty or innocent. But when I see that people spend hours and hours and hours on YouTube, I would encourage some of these people that believe a certain outcome but don't really know why they believe it. Take one of those hours, go review the PCA, go listen to the 911 call, pick one creator and actually just get one thing out of that show, and then go look at it yourself. And again, if you still come to a conclusion that you believe that this is supported by the evidence and that he did it and that he did it by himself, I can respect that. Again, don't agree with it, but at least if you've done the homework, I can appreciate that you took the time to actually stand behind your comment, your theory, whatever.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just backwards. It seems like the media has come to a conclusion and then they're throwing facts at that conclusion. I have a hard time with the idea, and sure, reasonable minds differ, but I have a hard time with the idea that if you're following the facts and you're following the evidence, that you would have an overwhelming amount of people come to the conclusion that he was guilty. I think it just isn't supported. So that's to me the issue, is that it's backwards. They came to the conclusion and now they're throwing a couple facts at it and ignore everything else that's inconsistent.
1000%.
Amen. That's a great statement. Great statement. Truly, truly. So let me ask real quick, when exactly did you guys dive into this? How far into the case was it when you guys jumped in?
So in full transparency, I did not know very much about anything other than what Dateline, and I think Prime had a couple of cyber sleuths, the Chronicles of Olivia, whatever was on Amazon, right? I started watching. It was earlier this year, give or take the March, April area. I had a weekend, which I don't have a lot of free weekends. So I actually somehow found Birdie on YouTube. Started with him, binge watched a whole slew of shows. And then I had found Outcast, and then I started subscribing to you and all the other big players. And I wasn't still, 100% sold, but I was at least at the point where I was like, wow, there are holes. And I have never even heard that it is possible that it was someone else. And then you start just analyzing some of the basic facts. I could not personally get past the 911 call, the 8-hour delay. As Sam says, you could watch Titanic almost 3 times over before they called 911. That to me was the hardest thing. So that's when I started. I was about March, April. I was collectively bombarding Sam with text messages, videos, clips of all of your guys' shows. I think I went back. I had sent Sam like 120 clips or shows in like a 90
It's more than that. It's more than that. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, I said in a 90-day period. So I got really serious about it. I would say like May. And then caught one of Birdie's lives. I was actually on Father's Day, and I really was even more drawn in. And then after that, it was probably about 8 to 10 hours a week. And now it's probably hours a day, either really early in the morning before my kids get up or super late at night. But and then I think Sam was like officially on board, like maybe not too long after me.
Kristen was arguing it in my office for quite some time, and I was sort of inundated with this. But what intrigues me is just the idea that people think, just in general, that and clearly not anyone in this chat, but that people really just think that one of the better arguments is that he just took the plea and so he must be guilty. And there's never really a thought process behind the fact that there are many, and this is also like not in dispute, there's many people in prison incarcerated for crimes that they didn't do. Some of those are people that took pleas, and some of those are people that were wrongly convicted. Like, that's just a fact. So to ignore that completely and act like this isn't possible and this is some wild conspiracy theory, to me just doesn't make sense. So when Kristen's sending me all these different pieces of evidence, and she was not struggling with it, but she's just been open to it. And I think that that's part of what our legal background does, because, you know, for how many times you get a client that says the other party's alienating a parent, it's like, okay, well, that's a conclusion. Now I need all the facts to support that conclusion before, like, I can go with you on this journey, or I can litigate this case for you, or I have enough admissible evidence to get into court to prove what I need to prove. And so typically, to me, the conclusion is just like the start of it. You have to then build up the case behind it. And I think that's what Kristen realized. She's got her attorney hat on and she's like, this isn't adding up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm reading all the comments and I love them, guys. And just to correct my 911 call, yes, it is all of the things that happened prior to the 911 call as well. We see our long-term, lifelong bestie, or even just a friend that we live with that you're obviously close with on some level, but we see someone down the hall on the floor and we are claiming up through that point that she was just unconscious and drank too much. So between the 911 call taking so long and not talking about the facts, and why are we not talking about the red stuff? This is such a huge thing in this case. Now we know that all 4 victims had defensive wounds. Okay, we know that by the estimated 250 stab wounds. But what the red stuff would be everywhere. It would be on the walls. It would be on the rails. It would be everywhere. There is no way you would be able to look down your hall, which is not very far with paper thin walls, and say, I think my friend drank too much. She's unconscious. So to me, that almost seems like it was completely scripted.
There you go.
And again, this is my opinion. This is Sam and I's opinion. But just those were the things that were so captivating that kept making me want to know more.
Absolutely. So in the beginning of this, I'll go here real quick. In the beginning, very initially, I covered this from day one. I've been on this for 3 years and a couple days. And it captivated me because I've never seen anything. First off, it's horrifying, you know, for young people, their lives to be taken the way they were. Oh my God, you know, it's horrible. So that's why I went into it initially. And, you know, I followed along with it. And I'm like, then boom, 8 hours. It took 8 hours for you to call 911. And immediately everybody locked down and went, whoa, okay. I think that is what drew everybody in initially and said, what's up with this? Okay. And so we follow along, and the PCA's released. I'm sorry, let me back up. Brian gets arrested, okay, so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay, I had no reason to believe anything other than this is the guy that did this. Thank God you caught him. It's wild that he's over here. He's a student of criminology, so on and so forth. This is weird, you know, it's wild. It's not anything any of us would have expected, but whatever is. And then, you know, the PCA, and I'm looking at the guy going, okay. But again, you know, you never know what to expect. Then the PCA comes out and we all read through it and we all freeze and go, what does this mean? What is this? This makes no sense. This is crazy. How did this, and this come out? How does this work? And then you go back and you look at the guy they arrested, and then little by little, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. And I said way back then, and please excuse some of my paraphrases and stuff like that, but the PCA is toilet paper. It's just not worth anything. And the prosecution themselves at some point came out and said it's absolutely, it doesn't mean anything. Then why did you give it?
Dramatic illustration of what they were trying to prove with very little evidence to support it, but nobody knew because we didn't have, because I don't even know if the gag order was in place at that time, but we didn't know the evidence to support it. And so even just from an attorney looking at it, you know, when we did, I was like, this is like a client's declaration where it's coming from the client. And the whole point of the declaration is to tell their story and illustrate it. But this is not coming from specific facts or a factual basis.
Yeah, and it was so overwritten in my opinion. And I'm like, why is all of this in here? And of course, as we're reading through this, you have the 2 surviving roommates, and there's statements that they're making that we all knew up front. They didn't make those statements. That came from law enforcement. Come on, you know, what 20-year-old girl says that I saw a man clad in black. And I was in a frozen shock phase, and we went, okay, good wording, good wording.
You know, the commentary.
Exactly. So, like I said, it was so overwritten. And like you just said, there was nothing to support it. It was ridiculous, so on and so forth. So that's where this all started when we started going over here down the path of we need to find out what's really happening here, why this went down like it did. And again, everybody goes back to, and why in the hell did it take these two girls 8 hours to call anybody, let alone 911, and say, hey, there's something going on? So 2.5 years we go through this, you guys, as you all know. And then all of a sudden, 6 months ago, we get everything, okay, according to them. And now we see what's right and wrong again, supposedly. And we get to break that down. We do that garden some more. And here we sit today. And that's why I said it's never gonna be, it's unending. It's unending. Until there's some real answers. So go ahead.
No doubt. And to your point about Dylan's really like well articulated sentences, it's kind of interesting to hear that from somebody who also in her second interview was like, it was all a dream, maybe. I don't know. That's a very, listen, I'm a sleepaholic, and that is a very vivid dream to not remember, to potentially, like, she doesn't even believe herself, it appears from that interview. Like, she really doesn't even believe what she's saying.
Right. And in fact, and I keep going back to this statement she made in, I think it was her fourth interview, I think. And she said, I think that's what happened, maybe, or I don't know, my mind might be making it up just to remind me. And I went, what did she just say?
So I think those were intentional responses, likely coming from her attorney counsel, because what those kind of statements intend to do is answer the question kind of and appease the investigator, but not pigeonhole you to a prior or following inconsistent statement. So that is somewhat of a legal tactic. And that is what I saw. Is you don't want your client to consistently say, I don't know. I'm not sure. You want them to give somewhat of an answer that satisfies the person asking, but that doesn't pigeonhole you.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point, Kristen, because just like as an attorney, we're not investigators, so we don't participate in that type of questioning, but for a living, we do cross-examine people. Typically, when you're cross-examining someone, they're responding, yes, no, I don't know, I don't recall, things like that. And you're trying to corner them. And so I don't know who was coaching her, prepping her, talking to her before her interview, but the reality is it wouldn't be organic for someone to just totally forget. And what it sounds like she's trying to do is prevent herself from being impeached later.
Yes.
And so, when you talk about impeachment, you talk about looking, there's a lot of different types of impeachment, but you talk about looking at somebody's, testimony or statement in one circumstance, and then having an inconsistent or different statement in another, or there's a different piece of evidence which shows that maybe she was lying. So it sounds like she's sort of building into her questioning or the answers to the questioning that no matter what, please don't impeach me. The problem I have with it is at some point you've made yourself so incapable of being impeached that you now totally lack credibility. And so how can we believe anything you say, even if you don't believe it?
Yes. Good point. Good point. And Birdie just said, I think Dylan was debriefed by Homeland Security as to what really happened. What do you guys think about that statement?
I don't disagree, Birdie. I think that there was, on some level, like when I said that I think the 911 call was scripted with respect to how it was made, when it was made, what voices were removed from the call, like we were able to go through with Outcast. I think the whole storyline was very controlled and calculated from the beginning. And I see a shift in the conversations with Dylan from her first interview to the last. And while she appears to be a little bit more confident in the last, her questions, her answers are actually even less credible. She's just talking more. And I'm guessing her attorney is sitting right beside her. Go ahead, Sam.
I mean, someone's talking to her. I don't know who it is, but someone has talked to her, and it doesn't have to necessarily be nefarious. Now, I don't think it looks good for her, but the truth is some of the questioning that I wanted to know is like, name every single person that you've talked to after this has occurred. Who did you talk to before the police arrived? Who did you talk to after the police arrived? Who did you talk to the next day? What did you see online? Like, there's so much missing from, in my opinion, the questioning that would have further demonstrated that there's stuff that she's not necessarily being honest about. Because if you're in this dreamed up state, like at what point does the dream end, right? Are you still dreaming? Like at some point you've come to, right? Even if I'm believing your story. And so then what next? Who did you talk to next? Who told you what? Were you prepped for this? Did someone talk to you about how to answer this? What, you know, are you nervous for this? Have you taken anything? Have you ever been in a dreamed up state before? Has anyone ever said that you've lost your memory? Is this the first time in your life? Like, I have so many questions.
Yeah.
It just does not add up. I think
I don't mean to interrupt, but if you take that into account, what you just said, both of you, and then you go back and you watch Officer Nunez's body cam when they first get there and he's taking the initial statement from Dylan and Bethany. You watch, and that's what blows my mind, watching her interviews and then watching that initial body cam video. You watch her when Jack DeCoeur comes walking up the hill, just strolling along like nothing's going on. She runs up to him and goes into this whole animated motion and starts explaining this whole story to him, word for word, step by step.
Can I just tell you what happened at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And immediately. And Jack's standing there.
That comment was so interjected and so scripted right
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
Wild.
She does it in the 911 call. She does it multiple times, pretty much. Okay. And
pretty much.
So, and she's just so animated and bent down and grabbing her knees and doing this, doing that. The police officer grabs her off to the side. Now, mind you, this is all after she was so drunk the night before and doesn't know if she was dreaming or hungover or whatever was going on. Brings her over here real quick, and he starts talking to her, and she goes into the whole story again, specifically detailing amazing things that I don't know how you're remembering this, but you couldn't remember this, and this, but you're telling this whole story. What? Come on.
That's where she loses credibility here and there, is she can remember the tiniest details about a bushy eyebrows, allegedly, even though there's evidence that she really didn't even say that. She can remember these tiny details, but she can't remember basic things. And, oh, by the way, I took melatonin, but we don't know how long ago it was. We don't know how many milligrams. We don't know if that's something she did every night, or was there anything else taken, Ambien. Like Sam said, and it wasn't just Dylan, it was every witness that.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were treated like toddlers, to be honest, at least. And I want to believe DM. I want to believe BF. I want so badly to be able to take their story, process it, and not have a million questions.
Of course.
But I don't. And, that's just, it's hard for us. But I think every one of them, the questioning was everyone, in my opinion, should have been considered a suspect until they were cleared. Every one of them.
Absolutely.
And, I think it's Lana's video that I saw first. They're all, when they're going to the Moscow PD, after the 911 call, and they're all gathering, they're all sitting in the hallway together. They're all sitting in that receptionist. Then they're walking individually, right behind one another, going up the stairs. And when Sam and I do family law trials, that can be very, very high conflict, very, very complex. We have multiple experts, witnesses. If you're a witness, you're not allowed to sit in the courtroom, because anybody else's testimony, unintentionally or not, can change your version of events, your feelings, your perception, your timeline, even if it's not intentional. So the fact that these adults, I'm not going to call them children because they are 18. I get it. They're very young adults. But the fact that they were not separated immediately on the 911 scene when they got to the King Road house it is mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. Yes, it is. They should have, and I said 1,001 times, I don't understand how this town is run. The officers should have separated everybody on scene immediately. They should have all been completely in separate areas. They should have all been being detained 100%. Their phones should have been taken. Everything should have been handled in a completely different way. Instead, they just throw them all together in a group. They allow them to stop off over at Emily's house before they all head to the police station. Then later that night, they don't take their phones until well after, if they did it all in some senses. Then they send them all to a hotel together to
oh yeah, I forgot that part. Yeah.
I mean,
what are you guys hanging out, in the rooms, or they're talking about their experience, or what they've been asked, or what they remember, or what so-and-so told them. It's wild.
It's beyond mind-blowing.
Don't they ask I think it was Dylan. I think it was Dylan. Don't they say, oh, even though they should have had consent or I can't think of it. They should have had a warrant to get her phone, unless you have consent. That is the exception to that. And if you just so slyly watch the detective say, "Oh, you don't mind if I just keep this for 24 hours or so? We'll get it right back to you."
Yeah,
that was super sly. But did they just keep it for like a day? That is wild. They should have been looking at every text and every phone call and every DM that has ever happened with them being at that university.
Well, there was obviously things like with Dylan's phone, for instance, has always been an issue with me. They had to bring an expert in, I can't remember who or what they actually did, but to bring things that were deleted between Dylan and her father back out. Like, why?
To try to recover the forensic data.
Yeah, and
that's way sus.
So you're tampering with ESI.
Thank you. And they gave her stuff back to her and said, "Oh, wait, no, we weren't supposed to do that," and then go get it back in 24 hours. Well, guess what can happen in 24 hours, you guys? All sorts of things. You know what I mean? I mean, there was so much ridiculousness within this investigation, or their lack of, as I always say. I mean, I have no sort of degree in law. I'm a retired firefighter and medic. That's all I've ever done. But I'm telling you right now, there's certain things that I would have done immediately without even thinking twice as a civilian. And it was never even looked at twice.
Never even considered.
No, and I think another thing is everyone's pointing at different parts of the investigation where it totally fell short, and I couldn't agree more. But the thing is, if you're one of those witnesses or you were around at that time, you would want to be separated, okay? You don't know who did this really. You would not want to be deleting information on your phone because that could be your evidence for something else. Like, you would want this information. The investigation has failed the people that aren't involved because they all look sketchy because the questions weren't asked. So who knows who really is like the issue here, but everyone is acting in a way that doesn't seem natural. And I recognize that people respond to trauma differently. People react to stuff differently. Like, I'm no trauma expert. I don't know anything about that, but I know that the right questions weren't asked. People weren't separated. And so as such, all the information we have, like, forget about the conclusion of who did it. All the information we have is that the investigation was done very poorly and it was compromised. And why it was, I don't know. By who, I don't know. But it was compromised. It wasn't an investigation where you can say, look, this was thorough. They looked under every rock. They didn't. And then we're all going, well, that's a problem. That's a serious problem. And then they're going, well, no, it's not, because we have a plea. It's fine.
Of course.
So what do you think about Hunter Johnson just chilling in the house when the police get there? And it's like, come on in. Come on, I'll show you. Oh, by the way, I put that knife there. But come on, considering that there was another unknown male DNA, found within the evidence that nobody knows anything about, which is freaking wild. I know that was in the comments. And yes, we have those questions too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start there.
Come on in. I'll give you a tour. Me and Sam were like, oh my gosh, the crime scene is already so compromised. He's touched things, he's moved things, his DNA there, his footprints there. And hey, come on, I'm going to show you what I saw first. And by the way, my best friend's Ethan, and we don't even say anything. And there was 2 more girls that live upstairs, but we don't even get to them either. It's like,
exactly. Yeah, I think it's good since you brought that up. We'll start there. We have a couple different things I want to really get into, but that's number one. And I've talked about that for a while. When they first get there, okay, and I really do. You've already gone there with it, but you get there and you see him standing there at the doorway like this as he runs up, and he heads up first. Why? First off, I've been on multiple scenes that are crime scenes, standing to the side waiting for police to secure the scene. Okay, we are not allowed to go in until if it's something in that that situational type stuff. We're not allowed to go in until they secure the situation in the scene. You got this kid that's leading them around the house on a tour. They never said a word. They never said a word. The only time until they went in the bedroom. Okay, back up. And they still didn't tell him to get out. They just said, go stand over there. You're not supposed to be in there at all, my friend. They don't mention the knife until, they let him explain. This is so unbelievable to me. I've never seen anything like this. I do not understand this. and nobody makes no big deal about this.
Yeah.
No, they just say, oh, well, it was, they were such a small PD and they might not have been ready for an investigation like this. And it was such a, a red scene that it was more horrific than anyone had seen. But I say that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it okay. If I go to a trial that I'm not prepared for because it may not be family law, say I go and do a civil case that I am nowhere prepared for. If I do a bad job, I don't get to say, oh, well, I wasn't ready. I didn't have enough time to prepare. That is on me. That goes back to that being on the Moscow PD. If they couldn't have handled it from the beginning, then they should have said that.
Yeah. And again, like for instance, real quick here, if I was a law enforcement officer in that situation that I just described to you, as soon as I walked in the bedroom and looked over back and forth and realized what happened in there, I'm going to spin around and I'm going to drop him on his knees and have him put his hands behind his back. You're cuffed, you're taken out, you're put in a police car. What the hell's going on? Where'd the knife come from? What are you doing here? What happened? What all of that? Yeah. Nothing happened. I can't understand this.
I certainly don't mean to make light of this, but watching that back, it looked like, have you ever seen Cribs? Like it looked like I was watching an episode of Cribs. He's like,
yeah, come on in.
Way. Here's my Fiji waters in the fridge. I couldn't agree with you more. It's like you, and not only that, once you realize what type of crime scene it is, the fact that that person, even if he had nothing to do with it, the fact that you haven't secured him, and because now you're a problem, whether you just like lost your mind and like put your DNA places and moved weapons, like, okay, assume for a moment that you just are not thinking, which is too hard for me to possibly believe, but assume that that's true. Still, where's the response to that? You've now just made yourself a huge part of the investigation.
Yeah, 100%. You have, in my opinion, you've become the number one suspect. Okay.
Right. You have to be. You have to be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Meg, for that, dear. Appreciate that. Who did a better investigation? MPD, ISP, FBI. That's another point I want to make real quick. This case had Moscow Police, Idaho State Police, Lake Tahoe County Sheriff's Department was slightly involved, the FBI, the Secret Service, Homeland Security. I've heard that there's rumor that even U.S. Marshals were involved. I've never seen a case have so many agencies involved in this sense. If it wasn't like something within the government happening or an attack on a very important like political figure or something like that, I'm not downgrading it by any means, don't get me wrong, but to have that many agencies involved, that also took me in a different direction with this in my mind too. So now I know that's a little sideways from where we're talking. I just wanted to throw that out there right away though, because it is kind of I think an important point to look at, that there's a lot of agencies involved. And it's almost immediate. The FBI was already, we all know.
They were there for like 8 months or something prior to.
Yeah, they were on the ground already.
Yeah, looking at the rug issue and specifically into the King Road residence is my understanding. Don't quote me on that.
The DEA and the FBI had been there for a while together. They were mingled in with students on campus as well. For my
also makes me believe that there was a already pre-existing issue going on at the King Road residence because it was already being investigated.
Yeah. And
the thing with all the agencies, and I agree with you, it is very alert should be going up everywhere in your head, but it's hard to know what. I very seriously doubt that every agency knew what every agency knew, right?
No.
So I doubt that Moscow PD knew what Homeland Security, Secret Service, FBI knew. And so I think that that's where there's so much crossover of theories, and it's just who knew what and when did they find out?
Exactly.
I think that's a really good point, Kristen, because I think my answer to that is I don't know that we can decide who did a better investigation because we haven't been provided that information. How do we know that one of those agencies maybe showed us a tenth of what we would have otherwise known, and they actually thoroughly know what happened? I mean, I assume that there's quite a few people out there that actually know what actually happened. We just don't have that information. And so we're guessing, and they're looking at us saying, please stop.
Yeah.
And when did the 60 FBI agents bail out? That's,
Yeah.
I would love to know that exact point and why, because was it they were having their own questions and they were uncovering rocks and it wasn't aligned with maybe another agency's theory or position. And so therefore somebody had to back down. I don't know. But yeah, we don't have enough information. And I don't know that we will ever know what agency had every
Right.
piece
And
of
if you
evidence
believe Steve Goncalves and statements he makes in the interview room,
oh, that was wild. Don't even get me started on that.
yeah, it was with Chris McDonough. I'm not a
Oh
big
gosh.
fan, but he makes a statement that like really kind of floored a lot of people when he said that the FBI turned tail and ran as fast as they could from this. And you're like, well, okay, thanks, Steve. But again, for throwing these things that he throws,
And
a lot
how
of
do
people.
you know, and when did they leave, and how do we
Thank
know they
you.
weren't still working behind the scenes with the respective agencies? Was there liaison? Maybe just they weren't boots on the ground anymore. But again,
Yeah.
I would love to know that information too. But I think sometimes people throw a lot of statements out there without having the supporting evidence, are
Yes.
not following the evidence, and a lot of it is clickbait.
Yes. And there's a lot of statements like that have been made. I know you've referenced it. I bring it up all the time that they're still running, as Mr. Goncalves did in that interview, with
That
the
they were
same
sleeping.
ridiculous narratives about they were sleeping. And Brian went home to his parents' house and cleaned his car with bleach, and he was putting his trash in his neighbor's garbage can, and he was doing all of these things have been proven to be wrong.
Even though he does that all the time.
Yeah.
That's normal to his behavior.
Yes. And all those statements are not true. None of that is real. None of it's true. And they themselves have come out and said, no, that didn't happen. No, that's not true. No, there was no stalking. No. And you're still running that narrative down the train tracks like it's an everyday thing.
Mm-hmm. Like that they were all still sleeping.
Yeah,
and
that's 2 years ago, like you said.
Yeah, and that was just within the last 30 days that he said that. And that's where he gets me.
Yeah.
And that's where he gets me, because I'm like, with all the evidence out, and now even with the new released evidence with respect to the location of every single stab wound and how many were on each person, and you can see the diagrams now of the bodies with obviously speculative of exactly where every wound, but the amount of wounds, it is very clear that it would be very hard to get me to believe that any of them were sleeping.
Yeah. I don't believe they were.
Weren't we just joking at the beginning of the show about how you guys can't sleep? I mean, how many people are excellent sleepers? Like, truly. No. And listen, I can fall asleep now after drinking coffee. Like, it's borderline narcolepsy, and I would wake up.
Yeah.
Like,
I could do it too. And that's the thing too. That's another point I wanted to bring up that I already know it's not true, with Dylan and Bethany. Okay. Talking about how they went back to sleep and how we all know they didn't sleep at all that night. Okay. And you're going to tell the world that you were scared to death and had to go lock yourselves together in a room, but you went back to sleep? No, you didn't. Stop saying that.
I would love to get a mental health expert on or a medical expert to talk about how hard it would be for your brain to see a masked man in your house, hear these crazy things, and still be able to go back to sleep. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Well, maybe she didn't need to go back to sleep because maybe it was all a dream.
Pretty much.
I mean, you can't believe any of it.
Pretty much.
And that's a problem. That's why I keep going back. It's like, she doesn't even believe that what she's saying is honest, and she's signaling that to us. So then, like, how can we take any of it as true? Like, why isn't there a question like, okay, well, you think you were dreaming, so then when you say you went back to sleep, maybe you were already sleeping? Like, none of it actually makes sense. I just wish that was fleshed out more. I think it's very clear that they didn't go back to sleep, and that's why she left her room and went to another room.
Yeah.
Dago, I have a question. Dago, I have a question for you. What do you think about, I know there's a lot of theories out there about Bethany not even being in the house at the time this happened. I think it's something absolutely to consider. I don't know that I have enough information to make that conclusion either way, but I will say in her testimony, I want to know what you think about this, or her, I think it was her second investigation, where she says that there was an encounter previously, maybe a couple weeks before, a couple months before, where she got scared, heard a noise, and then called her friend at midnight, and her friend came and picked her up. So Bethany, I'm like, You hear a noise, you call your friend and you leave the house, but you hear a firework and potentially a thud, and your bestie that you're sharing a room with allegedly says that they saw a masked man and you guys knew it wasn't Ethan's voice, but you just chilled.
No, I don't. That's a good reason to believe that they both left the house. Now, the theories that I've heard, and one, it does make sense. Don't get me wrong. I struggle with it only because Ann Taylor herself claims that they're in the house. So I try to stick to the docs and the facts and stuff. But it does make more sense to me that, they may have left the scene and came back right before they called they called Emily and Hunter and all them to come over, and then decided that they're going to do this. That's very plausible to me. It makes sense to me, because we noticed that I pointed out one thing. Sorry, I have ADHD and I do jump around a little bit, but
it's all right. We do too.
Too much going on. You know what I mean? When Nunez arrives there, we noticed that Bethany, who supposedly is on the 911 call, is standing across the street. Okay.
Totally trying to avoid body cams.
Distancing, hiding by a pole. She's standing next to the pole, so you can't see her in some senses.
It's almost like she knew where to stand to avoid being on body cams. I agree with that.
Completely distancing herself from Dylan, who, in my opinion, if this truly happened the way that this happened, they locked themselves together in a room and spent the night in total fear of the situation. In my opinion, especially and with women, I would think, and I may be wrong if I am, please excuse that, but that's a bonding situation between women. You spent this night surviving, trying to save each other and help each other as friends and so on and so forth, and now you're distanced. Why aren't you hugged up together right now, supporting each other? It bothers me, the situation.
It's such a crazy traumatic. Yeah, I am still working through a lot of thoughts I have about Bethany. I think I don't know. A lot of the behavior, I've questioned, was she someone that may have been, working in any sort of undercover role? I don't know. I have questions on why she was living in that house. I don't know.
Or the statement she makes in the body cam where she does this a lot. You can hear when she's talking, she mumbles through everything. It's very hard.
In her first interview, she truly in her first interview, it was, when can I go home to Thanksgiving? When can I go home? And I'm like,
your friends were just murdered. Yeah.
Yes.
In your house, in your presence, and you want to go home for Thanksgiving. Okay.
And she seems pretty smart, right? So it's like, I can't justify that she just doesn't have that ability to think, do critical thinking.
I mean, I just think, like, when you look at the idea that maybe they left the house, like, who knows if they did or didn't, but none of their behavior makes sense, because if you're so scared that you're huddled up in a room, maybe you've been drinking a bunch the night before, are you not waking up with the Sunday scaries, the lights, the daylight comes out, you want to get the F out of Dodge, you're freaked out. Yes. But instead, you're just going to hang out. Okay, well, then if we look at it from the other, you didn't think it was that bad. Maybe it was all a dream. Well, then why haven't you wandered throughout your very small house? Why haven't you checked it? I spent so many years in college having so many roommates. Like, that's not, you don't really just like keep to a little corner. You're kind of, why isn't so-and-so up? Aren't we having coffee? Let's get breakfast. Let's go talk about this person I thought I saw. I had a crazy dream. Like, none of that stuff is being said. And so it's just like this huge gap of time. And so I don't think it's really that unreasonable to assume that they left. I don't.
No.
And even if she did leave, Sam, you saw a firecracker, your friend says she saw a masked man, then you left to get out of immediate danger, but you didn't call 911 the second that you left?
Thank you. Or anybody. You didn't call anybody. You didn't call
and Dylan's not calling her boyfriend? Like, that should be someone which she does call him on others. She even says, and I think it was her last investigation, and that investigator who's actually kind of building a rapport and actually a relationship. And I know people think he was being too nice, but that's what you're supposed to do in those investigations. But he says, did you call Quinn? Did you call your boyfriend? And she's like, yeah. But then we don't have any documentation that you would call the one person that you would share that something this tragic happened with.
And then we know that Dylan's saying that when she was going to Bethany's room, right? Isn't she saying that she passed by Xana on the floor?
Mm-hmm.
So a
And no
very
red stuff.
long time ago, you
keep
saw her on
bringing
the
that
floor
up.
and she never got up, and you didn't think that that was an issue?
And you
Well,
didn't
now
go
that you
check
brought-
on her?
Yeah, and now that you brought that up too, Sam, thank you for that. Real quick, thank you, Meg, for that. Is it normal to request not to be arrested if you come back to Idaho? I don't think it is, but thank you, Meg. When you brought that up, one of the first questions they asked when they talked to Dylan, and maybe it was the first, not the body cam, but the first interview, they're talking. She says she runs down to Bethany's room. I think she even said she sprinted. Then she said she walked and ran, whatever. She changed it so many times, but he says, and what did, or no, I'm sorry, it was Bethany's interview. I'm sorry, you guys, there's so much going around in my head. He says, yeah, and she came down to my room. This is Bethany. And he says, the first question, and what did she say to you? Nothing. Okay, so she just ran by your friend, your roommate, on the floor. The reason why she's coming to your room and didn't say anything, that didn't get brought up at all, that Xana's laying on the floor, not moving. Why
aren't they asking? And so how many times has she slept in your room before without saying anything?
Right.
Is this the first time? Is this usual for you guys?
Bingo. And why didn't he follow that with an actual question as to, did she bring up Xana? Like, did she mention the reason why she came down there? No.
Yeah. What side of the bed was
we're
she
still not talking
on?
about the red stuff. We're still not talking about the red
And
stuff.
that's
nobody's saying they went and checked on her. Like if someone said, if I saw Sam on the floor with tons of red stuff in the very short hallway with the paper thin walls, I'm gonna keep giving all these facts over and over until people like really truly comprehend it. But I never went and checked to make sure that she was breathing, or I mean, because even if she was unconscious, I would still need to call 911.
Yes, well, if you saw someone in the house, wouldn't you be like, Xana, there's someone in the house. Xana, wake up. You need to get up. Hey, get up. Someone's here.
I'm going to give you guys a little theory I've had for a long time on this, if you don't mind.
No, we love it.
Based on that whole situation, just that situation, okay? My belief, if you want to believe anything Dylan says, if that's even remotely true, what I believe actually truly happened, because now we've been told that from Hunter, I believe it was, that he had to push the door all the way open because it was slightly closed, okay? What I believe is that Dylan, instead of running by downstairs to Bethany's room, I believe that she may have, because you're not going to glance down a 14-foot hallway that was lit up, I'm sure, to some extent, but with the door closed.
I think it was definitely lit with all the lighting.
You're not going to know who's laying on the floor. You can't tell if her head's facing the wall. You don't know that unless, in my opinion, you strolled down that hallway, maybe called out her name, she didn't answer, and walked in and looked at her and saw her. And at that point, you saw the whole situation. You didn't just see what you claimed that you saw. So why was that never brought to the table? Why did you not explain that when you called Hunter and Emily and Josie to come over? All you said was, I think she's passed out. So you're lying, in my opinion, at that point. I think she truly walked down that hall, looked in the room, saw the whole thing, and went downstairs. But still, according to Bethany, never said a word, if we believe her. That's what I think happened.
I mean, I think it's a great point, but Kristen, I don't know what interview we're watching. I think it was the second interview of Dylan, but she was saying that she couldn't remember whether the lights were on or not.
Mm-hmm.
And she could remember that there was like maybe a Sensi in another room, but she couldn't even remember if the lights were on. So how could the lights, how can you not have that memory? That to me goes back to the idea that this is a narrative that's getting pushed as to what happened. Yes. Like you can't remember, like the man was holding something and you couldn't remember if it was held up or held down. Those are things that you would have to like implant into a narrative that you were then telling someone. So to not know those answers to me is very bizarre. Like you would remember that, like, well, yeah, of course the light was on because I saw her on the floor and you wouldn't not remember that. And so to me, that's what makes me, I mean, I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face that she doesn't even believe her. So why should we believe her? Like she doesn't believe her own story, but it's not credible to me that she can't remember things that like, was it night or dark? Was it light in your place or not light in your place? Was that usual for there to be a light on or not? She couldn't answer that.
And if it was light, was that from the lights you guys had in the house, or was it from a light switch being on, right? Because they had that neon sign. The house appears to be very, very lit up from all of the videos and just the pictures that we've seen. And I think most of them have testified that they don't unplug the Sensi. They don't unplug the neon light at night. So I agree with you, Sam. It's just, it's, it was Dylan, Dago, wasn't it Dylan that said that she heard, I think she initially said she thought it was Xana, but it was Kaylee screaming, or vice versa. I do get a little mixed up on that fact, but she also heard someone screaming, saying that there was a man in the house. So we have that. Then we have the allegedly coming face to face. And then we have the, it might have had a vacuum. And then we have all of these things. Oh, but pretty much I don't remember. It might have been a dream. And someone actually brought up to me this theory very recently this week, that the whole testimony has the same vibe. And I have not verified this, so don't quote me on it. Has the same exact vibe or storyline as the Vampire Diaries that she's claiming she was watching earlier that night.
I have verified. That's an absolute fact.
Is it really like down
we
to
went in and found the episode, and it is word for word for word.
Wild.
It's beyond wild. There's a part, I played it a few times just to make sure we're hearing it, and you hear this woman crying. This guy runs up. I don't know the people, sorry, but
yeah, either do I.
He runs up on her and he says, I found her, something like that. And then she's like, no, and she's crying. Okay. And he's like, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. I'm here to help you. And I went,
dude, that's wild.
Wow.
Does it say in there that someone says that she heard a man, or there's a man in the house? Does it have that in the episode? I need to go watch it. No, just the I'm here to help you.
It's just everything else but that.
It's wild,
I said, there's no way.
I'm like, this is wild.
Way. I don't believe it. I don't believe she believes it. And I think you would know if the lights were on. I think that you would have a much better story.
Of course.
It sounds very rehearsed to me. And absolutely. I don't know why it's being presented in that way, but it just sounds rehearsed. It doesn't make sense. And I think she's building in opportunity to prevent herself from being impeached. And most of the time, people that are building in something, a reason or an avenue to not be impeached, most of the time, those people aren't credible. Not all the time, but most of the time. Like, what kind of grades was she getting? What does she have? Does she have any?
Is she going to class?
Does she have? Yeah. Does she have any issues with memory? Is there something
in her medical
class that I'm unaware of?
I think that's even the better one. Did she actually go there? Was she planted there?
A lot of people have said that. Was she even supposed to be living in the house? Was she going to school there? All of that stuff.
Was she enrolled? Was there a tuition? Was it being paid? I mean, these are just all such basic facts. And now I have a question for both of you. Now, knowing how redacted a lot of the stuff we get is, and I go back to the 911 call that we know for sure had voices and comments made that intentionally were redacted so that we as a general mass public did not know. Do you guys think that there were parts of the investigations where Dylan could have said more helpful information to the case, but it did not follow the storyline or the timeline, and so it was intentionally redacted to protect the prosecution's case? Because I actually think that they probably gave more information and they're basically hanging them out to dry as these super aloof, I can't remember anything witnesses. But my guess is there was a whole lot more in those investigations, because anybody watching those videos is like, this is the worst line of questioning that I've ever seen.
I absolutely believe that that's very, very possible, in my opinion. That's just me, because I think that she is such an unreliable witness per se, or, that they're not going to allow, knowing that if she were to, obviously, if this went to trial, they'd put her on stand. Ann Taylor would have destroyed both of them.
I would have loved to see that cross-examination.
On cross, she would have destroyed them, period.
Sam would have eaten her up for lunch and spit her out, bro.
Yeah. So I think they absolutely changed, in my opinion, had to change the statement and redact a lot that was said, because they know that let me put it this way. It's going to tell the truth. It's going to tell the truth, maybe in some senses, and that can't happen. So,
Sam, what do you think?
I think that if you kind of take a step away from like the micro of the evidence to answer your question, Kristen, and totally my opinion, but like, if you're looking at like, is it possible that things were left out to prevent people from being able to like truly figure out what happened? I think it's not even just possible. I think it's probably, it's probable, because you have to think about the wider implications of it. right? Like, so what if there's evidence that comes out that says that things were getting covered up, that things were mishandled? What if there's evidence that comes out that, BK's wrongfully convicted? Well, genuinely, what's the next step to that? Civil suits, wrongful conviction, malicious prosecution. Like, there's a lot of other things there. And I'm not saying those things definitely happened. I'm saying it's something that you have to consider. It's possible. It's not just that there would be no reason to provide this information to the public. It's not just like, well, we've decided, we just really don't like this BK guy. If they were doing this, assuming they are for argument's sake, there would be a reason to do it. There would be a lot of reasons to do it.
I'll see if Outcast will do a deep dive for us. I want to see if there's any way to figure out if there are pieces of that audio missing. I don't even know that we would be able to figure that out. But if you can see under the surface, if it was edited or altered or modified, because my guess is that there was some statements by both of them that did not push their belief, their position, their prosecution, that Brian did this or that he did it alone.
Yeah.
And there's one question. Oh, now I can't remember it. But I actually, anyone that is on the other side of this, I question you. Go listen to those go listen to those investigations objectively. Get a piece of paper and just write questions that you have as a listener that you would want to know more of. And if you see how many questions that you've written down, that is very concerning, and that would very likely lead to beyond a reasonable doubt.
I agree. I do agree. I do have, if you don't mind, real quick, I have a couple questions. I've been trying to catch these questions. There's a lot of great ones in here for you guys. Yeah. And we've been all over the place. I know.
Some of these questions are great, you guys. I'm trying to pop in and see them, but there's really a lot of good questions.
This is one that I wanted to get from the beginning.
Yes. So I think with respect to this, yes, I think when Hippler was denying the repeated motion to continue at the end, and he was saying, I think he ended up giving him like a week or something like that, right? The last continuance.
Yeah.
And Anne was so desperately waving the red flag saying, I am not ready. It is ineffective assistance of counsel if I'm telling you I am not ready. I am, and she says it over and over. And Sam and I have talked. We've had our appellate specialist attorney that we work with very closely in our office. We all collectively believe that she is laying the foundation for something beyond this. But she is telling Hippler, I am not ready. Yeah. And he's basically like, it's been 2.5 years. We want to avoid any more leaks and media issues. And I'm like, at that point, everything that possibly could have come out has already come out.
Yes.
And it's all prejudicial to BK, not to the prosecution. But I think it was very intentional. I think that they were laying the groundwork for an appeal, potentially ineffective assistance of counsel. We're doing an episode in the future with our appellate specialist about all the potential options we have that we see potentially coming.
Good point. Sam, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Or
it's hard to kind of figure out why it happened necessarily. I agree with everything that Kristen said. I just think, she's certainly laying a record for herself to appeal this because of the ineffective counsel argument. And a lot of times people think that essentially means that an attorney is just not doing their job, but you're really looking at whether it's prejudicial to this person or not. And so you think like, okay, well, how does this hurt him by not having enough time to gather the evidence that is probably still out there to need to gather? Well, it ruins his shot at trial, which would maybe put you in a position where you'd be more likely to be scared to a point of taking a plea. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's why you would take a plea, but you sure are losing hope there when nothing is going your way and it doesn't appear that you're getting a fair trial, because a fair trial, you should be able to have the time and opportunity to exchange that evidence and to actually be ready and set for trial. Like, I think everyone, no matter what side you fall on this, can agree that if you are somehow in this nightmare situation, like a Karen Reed trial, you're in a nightmare situation where you want to prove your innocence. Like, you don't want to go there with like half your bag of tools. Like, you want to go there with everything. And so
experts, discovery, all of it.
it's just hard to ignore that you could possibly feel like you had any shot whatsoever at having a fair trial.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
And what was the prejudice at that point? It had already been 2.5 years. It's not like we were trying to really wrap this up and get this done. It had been years of this case going on and on. Oh, but she was very clearly laying the groundwork. I think that when Hippler denied her last request to introduce the evidence of the alternate suspect theory, I think she knew no matter what she presented, what was happening in this case, the wind was taken out of her sails. And I think very, very calculated and specifically, she was laying groundwork for.
And that I agree with you both completely. I mean, they already know my take on this. And Miss Potts, she has a channel as well. She puts out amazing stuff, guys.
I love her comments. I love your comments, Miss Potts.
She's got a channel and puts out great shows on different things. She follows the pathology in this as well and points out different things like that. It'd probably be very interesting for you guys to check her out as well. She's great.
Like, I will make sure I subscribe, Miss Potts. If we don't, I will make sure I get on that today.
Yeah, I think you would enjoy her over there. But to add to that too, though, it's the way you expressed how they took the wind out of Anne's sails. I've said this before, like those two hearings, the alternate suspect hearings and the continuance hearings, right before that, I think it was the alternate suspect hearing, Anne had just buried her mother 2 days before that hearing. So she was already weakened in that aspect, in my opinion. Yeah. Came right back to court, which, you know, I know your job is your job, but personal things in your mind that's your mother. Okay. It doesn't go away. So it's like, I'm not saying he purposely took advantage of her weakness at that point, but that's when I feel like all of that happening all at one time, she very well felt like she hit a brick wall, knowing there's no access here. They're not going to give us anything. We don't have a choice now but to go forward and point our heads at this plea deal situation and go from there.
And
so
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's what my feeling was on that.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of add a point, and I don't know how much of common knowledge this is, but like when we're saying ineffective assistance or of counsel, we're not pointing the finger at her saying like, you mishandled this case, you did this wrong, like whether or not, you know, BK was happy with her or not, like ineffective counsel would be a legal standard. So it's nothing to do with like the, you know, moral or like she like committed malpractice. It's a potential legal standard that would provide you, as I understand from our dear friend Ron, who's an appellate specialist, an ability to potentially further your case. And that's kind of what we're looking at now, because we can't undo the fact that BK entered into this plea or this conviction. Now it's what's next. Like, what are the things that could come out that would provide him a legal avenue to either set aside the plea or, you know, essentially get this undone. And the more that has happened and the farther this case has gone on, the harder that becomes. And so that's why you might even have and we should talk to Ron about this, but you might even have a situation where she is, in effect, Anne is filing that very appeal saying that it was ineffective assistance of counsel, even though it's her.
I'm just gonna add that.
Like
I was just going to say, it's not uncommon for the trial court attorney, you know, defending the defendant to actually work with an appellate attorney or actually themselves file the motion for ineffective assistance of counsel. Mm-hmm. That is not uncommon. I think, Sam, that's a really good point, because a lot of people, they get emotional or they get defensive of Anne. I would bet some money in Vegas that Anne has had many conversations with BK about this, saying this is an option. And now, do I think she had to CYA herself 1000%? And there better be some bulletproof CYAs there from Anne to BK. But that's what any attorney does. Even when I send my client a settlement proposal and I go through my thoughts and my recommendations and my analysis, you bet I'm putting in there, if you choose option A, B, or C, this is against my legal advice, and here's why. So my guess is those conversations have happened, but I would be shocked if it came out that BK had never heard of this and there wasn't a plan and a strategy to pursue that.
Yeah. And who knows, like, I haven't totally formulated an opinion. Maybe I could, but it's hard to me. It's kind of hard to formulate an opinion of how good an attorney is doing until they're actually at trial and you know what they got and don't have, because although everyone's exchanging evidence and things like that, there's a lot of attorney-client work product going on. There's a lot of building a case. There's a lot of things that you'd intentionally not be feeding to the media or media outlets while you're going through this. So, I mean, I don't know, because I don't think he really had an opportunity, totally from what I'm hearing, to have a fair shake at it. And maybe I'm wrong, but it wouldn't make me feel good to be in a position where my attorney is saying, I need more time so that we can actually have a chance at this, and the court is saying, no,
we're going to force you to go. And I think to this day that Anne still hasn't received some of the discovery that was requested. I think to this day, and what was it, 2 terabytes or something, which is a absurd and crazy amount of discovery. And again, I think that was a strategy that can be a whole nother discussion, but I think the way that was served on her with no rhyme or reason, completely just thrown together. I mean, so much of evidence is in footnotes and on the back of pages and hand scribbled on notes. It was very intentional the way.
And it was all thrown at her like 52 card pickup. They were completely unorganized with what they gave to her. There was something in the realm of 51 terabytes of certain types of discovery that she said she brought an expert in to look at, and they said, Ann, this, or Miss Taylor, this is going to take you 3 years to go through this completely. They don't have that time, and he knew that. She knew that. She clearly claimed and told him, Your Honor, I'm not ready for this.
Didn't give 2 craps about it.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Like you said earlier.
It's been 2.5 years.
Yeah. He didn't care at all. As multiple things he didn't care about.
No, I think he had made up his. I think that there was a lot of emotion involved with his position, which with a judge, it should be very, very objective. It should be very unbiased. And I think if you watch one of the virtual court hearings, it's easy to.
The day we met the man, the first day he came in there, he's sitting there like this and says, well, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I'm happy to be here because I'm not. What are you doing? Who?
You know where he got me? Where he got me was there was the hearing again. I think it was Anne was broaching the discovery regarding the alternate suspects. That it was just like that initial hearing, and he said, "Well, his DNA's on the knife sheath," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh! Like you should not be making statements like that as a judge. You are supposed to be so objective. I mean, you can say, well, what evidence can you provide? I need to know when, I need to know how, I need to know the names, I need to know what you have to support each of these theories." He was very, I don't think he had any intention. He wasn't even going to let her use it for impeachment purposes, like Sam talked about.
Just as much as that statement he made about the alternate suspects at that hearing about the car. What are you doing? That's not your, I mean,
why are you? That's a jury issue.
Thank you.
That is a trial issue for the jury to determine if that was Brian's car, if it was a white Elantra, if that was the same car speeding away from the house, because I think it was actually a couple different cars potentially, but that is a jury issue.
100%. And that man, that's the day that it proved to me, one, that he had his mind made up from the moment he sat down on the bench, and two, that he was there working for the prosecution in an aspect. Okay. He was absolutely prosecuting Brian at that point, in my opinion. So
I think he was actually potentially doing a better job than Mr. Thompson.
He was, yes, and especially Jennings. Okay, don't get me started with her, but
the one that was at the crime scene at what time in the morning before the 911 call was made?
That's another question I had for you guys. I have many more I've started. I'm going to try to get to these. We went through and read Idaho law. Just because different states have different things. You know, I'm in Ohio, that's Idaho, you guys are in California. Things are all different everywhere. But there is a SOP or a standard operating procedure for most law that is the same in some basis. And we had questions about this. And the fact, once we heard it on the body cam is when it really made me look into it. To find out that, and it may be like a pinpoint or a point that's not that big to me of a deal to most people. It is to me, though, knowing that Kathy Mabbitt, who is the coroner and
defense attorney,
and she does everything else in town too. Yeah, it's crazy. Was there at noon. She was there at noon and ready to go. And they said, yeah, just have her stage over on King Road and we'll let her know when it's time to come in. And she states in her report that she did not, they state in the report, she didn't go into that house till anywhere between 7 and 9 p.m. And they told us initially it was 5.
And it wasn't initially at 4:35.
That's what they told us. But the report now that we read through ISP states 7 to 9 p.m. Now, I know for a fact after reading this that nobody's supposed to go in that house and do anything until she goes in and takes custody of these bodies. and clears everything, calls it what it is, so on and so forth. They never allowed that, and they were all over that crime scene. Bill Thompson and Ashley Jennings go in there around 5 p.m. that day and do the whole walkthrough with Brett, and it's not that in itself, in my opinion, is enough. I'm asking you because I'm not an attorney. I don't know the law in that aspect, but from seeing that, it made me wonder that should have been enough for the defense to say, what the hell? And this shouldn't even have been allowed, Your Honor. But it was never brought up at that point. Maybe, I don't know if she didn't know or did know or whatever, but that's a crazy situation to me.
Sam,
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I was like, I'm looking at you. You go.
So I mean, I just in general think that the amount of time delay everywhere is a concern, because it just brings up a general, like, I don't know if the best way to say it is a chain of custody issue, but it's like there's too many gaps. So yeah, everyone has a standard operating procedure, and like, as I understand, they have to secure the crime scene and all that. But like, why is it taking so long to do that? And why is there like timeline issues everywhere? Like, this is the world's slowest investigation where nothing happened. Right. For the amount of time it took for all this stuff to happen, you would think that every potential witness or suspect would be separated in cars and interviewed. You would think that you would have a lot more body cam footage, like that there would be so much more than we have. So it's like everyone is moving either like at the speed of a snail, or there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on and we just don't know about it. And then they're like, okay, ready, set, go, action. And so this is when we do this. So I just think that the gaps in time are really, really concerning, and you don't just have one gap. So now we have another gap. So it's like we have the 911 call gap. Now we have this gap. How many other gaps are there? A ton.
Yeah. And to go on, Dago, I have similar concerns with you. I don't know that I know enough to say that Ann Taylor never brought it up. I know that there might have been chambers discussions and bring it up and say, hey, like there's concerns that many people were in this house, including Hunter Johnson and neighbors, before Kathy was there or Mavit was there. The timeline doesn't add up. It's not matching the storyline. It's also my understanding, well, not my understanding, Stacey Chapin actually said in her crime con, where she was being featured as a spokesperson, that the bodies were still there at
next morning.
Yeah, the next morning. She even says that she was at the hotel, couldn't sleep, so she took a walk, and that she was walking by the house and she knew that Ethan was still there. And I almost spit out my water when I was drinking it when I watched it. I was like, wait, what? Because again, if that is true, why are you not saying that that's how it happened? I think it's all of the inconsistent statements and the lies and the redactions, or the attempt to rehabilitate the storyline for what works for them, has most of us not believing anything that comes out of anybody's mouth anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. That statement, I was going to bring that up too, that you just brought up. When I first heard that, I was the same as you. I almost spit something out. I was drinking when she said that, thinking like, wait a minute. She took for those of you that didn't know that, Stacey said in that statement that she took a walk the next morning. She couldn't sleep, walked to the house, and her son was still in the house the next morning. And I went, what?
No, I mean, right. It wasn't just Ethan. They were all there.
Yeah.
Which is inconsistent again with the storyline that we were told, that the media has pushed. So I think if you look at each individual one, it could be like, well, we don't know. Was there conversations that we're not privy to? Like Sam says, I think there's a lot more than we still don't know. But when you put them in a timeline together, it's not possible that there's that many coincidences. I don't believe in many coincidences at all. I think everything happens for a reason. But when you look at that many, when you're going through the legal process, you should not have a question about how every single fact happened. Usually you can stipulate, okay, we're going to stipulate on the facts that we believe, and these are the trial issues. We do that in our trials. We'll say, okay, we agree on the date of marriage. We agree on the date of separation. We agree with a holiday schedule. So what do we have to go to trial over? It's the other things that we don't agree to. This was just like, there was nothing that was in agreement. It's wild.
So I saw an interesting question in the chat about essentially saying all these are really good reasons to go to trial, you know, but why didn't the attorney for Brian, why did she allow him to plead guilty? And I think that brings up two really good points. The first for me is that ultimately your client makes the call, even if you don't like it. Like, your job is to tell them, here's your options. Here's what we can do. Here's the legal theories we can pursue. Here's the potential consequences of going to trial. Here's the benefit of going to trial and maybe walking out a free man. But she doesn't get to make that call for him. She cannot step in and say, no. She can say, my advice is that you should go to trial. And you should roll the dice on this, but that's hard when you're up against a firing squad. But she could have said that. We don't know that private conversation because that would be privileged. But the other point about it is, and the more important part, I think, is why not let all these facts come out? Well, the truth is each of these facts would have to be not only evidence, it would have to be evidence that was admissible. And so the court could exclude it for a particular reason. The court could not allow testimony on alternative suspects, for example. And so your ability to get the facts out the way we feel here, like in this chat or on this live, like everything's fair game. We could pull this from here. We could pull this from there. Like, that's not actually true in court. It is this whole orchestra of, the prosecution has its burden and the prosecution puts its case on, and the prosecution has evidence that it tries to admit and puts witnesses on, and there's cross-examination of that, and then they rest their case, and then the defense has their turn. But they still have to operate within the evidence code. They have to be able to lay the foundation for evidence to their benefit or to their peril. And certain evidence that really, really, really could change the game may be excluded totally. And so the idea of like getting facts in or having a fair trial is not necessarily like a foregone conclusion.
Good point. Very good point.
Awesome. Dago, there's a great comment in here that I want to just touch on really quick before we go to the next. Satire 777. Yes. There was a very heated, and this goes kind of back to what we don't know because it's not all being public, right? It's not all, it's so redacted. But yes, I noticed that when I was reading through the court records and 90% of it was redacted, but you could get little nuggets, and it was one of Ann Taylor's associates. I'm going to go with the name you because it's not off the top of my head, but I think you're saying it's Barlow. She had this person had a very heated conversation with Hitler regarding the IgG. Yeah. It was they're showing you that the hearing happened, and then they redact 99% of
all of it. Yes.
And if you read this, that's the first thing I thought, satire, was, wow, this was a very heated conversation, and why is it redacted? That was one of the ones I put a huge question mark and put the document to the side because I believe you. And again, that goes back to my theory is, why is this redacted? We should be privy to this analysis over such a controversial issue in this case. And if it was a court hearing, there was a court reporter, why is it being redacted?
Thank you. Thank you. That way, and if you do look at the documents there, as I showed when we reviewed it, you can look down through. I mean, it looks like the JFK files, folks. It's all blacked out.
You can tell that they're pinging and they're fighting.
Yeah. There's certain statements that are not redacted that if you lead backwards into that, exclamation points and stuff, that's a huge heated argument, in my opinion. Agreed.
I agree. And satire, trust me, that caught my attention, girl. 1,000%.
Big, great question too. Great statement, satire. Agreed. I'm so sorry that there's so many questions and so many people, you guys.
We'll have to have, and we're not on a time crunch, but we can always do a part 2 or 3 as well, and we'll have Dago on our show so we can get to even more of these questions too.
Yes, because there's a lot, there's so much, and like I said, I would never try to drag you guys through one of my normal shows.
I'm not on a huge time crunch. I could probably go, Sam. You could go another like 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah. No problem.
That would be great. I appreciate that very much. And then we can set up for another show at some other point because there's so much that we could talk about, guys. We barely touched the tip.
I love the questions, though. I love the intelligence of the chat. It's you have a very good chat there, Dago. You have built a really incredible community. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, this community, I'm very proud of this community. They're amazing. They're all so very intellectually attached to this. Very smart, and they have some very good and amazing insight into this. Amazing questions. We always have the most amazing think tank episodes when we go through this, that we go through with these questions again and again and again, bring things up, and so on and so forth, that it's just never ending. I love it to death. Another one that Annie asked real quick was, but without the FBI IGG, what is the probable cause to obtain the trap and trace and arrest warrant to obtain his buccal swab for comparison to the Q1.1 profile? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I would just say my general thought is I hate the words probable cause put together, because I just think that there's so much room for interpretation there. Like, Kristen and I deal with this a lot in, just a basic case. Like, if you want to go get a continuance, you have to have probable cause. And like, what is that? And so I believe it's one of the more misused areas, I think, of law, is like, think about like somebody's pulling someone over for a traffic stop. Like, what's your probable cause? Like, oh, your tail light was out. It's like, a lot of times, in my opinion, it's BS, and it's just like a way to get a warrant or a way to take it to the next step. So I unfortunately think it's a very misused tool.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I'd actually like to go research a little bit more of that, Ms. Potts, and maybe we can chat with you about that, because you might even know a little bit more. But I agree. So with the probable cause, like we said, it's such exaggerated statements. It could have been, you can have probable cause if someone is with driving without a light on, right? So they take that little tiny piece that they can say is based on probable cause, and then they can get whatever they're going for. So I think that the touch DNA was probably sufficient, even though they knew that it was not allowed to be used as evidence with respect to the IGG. I think there was enough there to get a judge to go, oh yeah, this is enough to put him in custody and start building the case.
Sure, but the problem is like, maybe that information shouldn't have been able to be used to obtain that probable cause. So like, the issue isn't necessarily the warrant. The issue is that that fact, it was ignored, how that was obtained. It goes back to the chain of custody thing, right? We're ignoring that. You got it now. We'll give you the green light for probable cause, which is a very low standard compared to like a criminal, the standard of conviction of beyond a reasonable doubt. But the issue I have is with like I and my like neurotic attorney brain, I want the evidence to be admissible evidence. I want the chain to be correct. And I think that we should be suspicious when randomly pieces of information come up, like they just fall into our lap and now here's our probable cause. Like that is very suspect. But then how do you unring the bell, right? Like in law school, they call it like fruit from the poisonous tree. Like, how do you unring it now that you have it? And then everyone's like, well, now that we have it, let's ignore it and let's go straight to trial and conviction. We got the guy. But
I think a lot of things are said just for, Sam and I say this all the time. Like, even as attorneys, we may say something knowing that it's going to get objected to, or knowing that we're going to get reprimanded a little bit or admonished, because once it's said, yes, the court may say you cannot consider this for purposes of analyzing whether or not he did this factor of this crime. But how do 99% of the people, I think even attorneys struggle with this. How do I say, okay, I can use it to determine whether or not that this happened, but I cannot use it for anything else? So I think once people heard, especially the media just bombarding the world with it every day, I think that once people heard that there was some sort of touch DNA associated with his family, I have so many problems with the PCA. We're going to talk to our appellate specialist about the PCA in general. Like, was there options that potentially could have been filed to fight that PCA and that whole process? Was there any fruit of the poisonous tree that should have been addressed earlier? I think this case was just so massive, and I think that there was things that potentially could have been handled a little bit differently from the onset. But I do think that Ann Taylor did the best that she could. I agree. I agree. It's like everyone wants to blame everybody, but I think we're talking about a public defender who had a couple associates. Yes, she went out on her own private, at some point in the case. But when you're getting terabytes and terabytes of discovery, that's probably close to 1 million documents. There's 3 of you. You don't know that you're getting everything. You're all of a sudden getting dropped information about the IGG, but nobody will show their homework because it's security protected. It's not, they will not show their work. And she is fighting the judge, the prosecution, the discovery process. She's fighting everybody every step of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolute. And real quick to backpedal, Kristen, to what you were talking about with that whole thing between Barlow and Hitler. Tomboy says that Bicca knows IgG and DNA. That's what she does backwards and forwards. And for the judge to argue with her about it should say a lot. And it does, in my opinion.
I do agree.
I think that she was actually very involved in her aspect of this case on the defense side. And that whole, I had said when we saw that, when you brought that up, it blew me backwards on that, because I said that day I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall during that hearing, because there was probably so much important information that was discussed that he completely blew off, in my opinion, probably.
And I think where Bicca was going with some of it as well is that potentially, I think, could have fed over into the alternative suspect theory. I think it could have bled into that, which you could tell was a very contentious, and she was the one, I believe she was the one handling that theory, right?
Yeah.
But and that would have been a battle of the experts if it went to trial. That whole entire issue. And the cool thing is that Bicca would have actually been kind of an expert in her own right. So she very likely would have been coaching, preparing, and training one of the most elite experts in the fields with respect to that process. But I agree. I think Hitler should have never been making a lot of these arguments. I think he just kept digging his, I don't know.
The thing that gets me is that from my understanding, and I've been told this by multiple sources, that the way they set this all up when the change of venue came to play, which everybody knew was going to happen, okay, that there's a board that they put together, and that they go out and they pick who's going to be the judge that takes this case over. And I would like to think I'm wrong, to be honest with you, but I've been told by multiple people that it's true, that Hitler himself was on the board to pick the judge to take the case over in Ada County. How can that be something that happens? In my opinion, that's an insane conflict of interest. And how do they allow this if this is true? You know what I mean? And then you come in the door and pretend like I don't want to be here and all that fun stuff. And it's like
so calculated.
It's all scripted, in my opinion. It's like a really bad one too.
I think I'm not very familiar with the process, especially in Idaho, of that occurring, but I will say that just across the board, it is extremely unnerving. Noticing how many mental and legal gymnastics are required to go through a trial, right? The assumption that the jury's not ever going to look at their phone or look at the media when something's going on. When we, for example, in family law in California, if we believe that a judge is biased, we file a motion saying that they're biased, and the judge that we file the motion on makes the decision as to whether or not he or she is biased. Yeah. That's confusing, right? But it's there's a lot of that in the legal realm. And so even if everyone is doing their best, and I'm not saying that was this case, but even if everyone is doing their best to operate with impartiality, there's still so many legal gymnastics, as Kristen said, with not wanting to unring bells or throwing something out there and then having a jury instruction say, don't listen to what you just heard. Don't consider that, move forward. We're all human beings. So we're all kind of dancing around playing this chess game going, oh yeah, we're not supposed to do that. So we're not. But I think even the most honest person that's trying their hardest can't always operate without that impartiality. They just can't. So then you have a case like this, assuming that that's happened, and then you're watching the behavior of that potential judicial officer afterwards. And there is an appearance that there is some personal feelings being placed into a case. It's unnerving. And it again goes back to the whole well, Brian's guilty because he took a conviction or a plea. It's are we forgetting about all this stuff? Are we forgetting about the feeling, how you would feel if you were a defendant and you knew that everyone had already decided you were guilty before? You weren't going to get a chance at a fair trial. You weren't even getting the continuance that you wanted. You hadn't had all the discovery back at that time. And then we wonder well, no, innocent people, they don't take pleas.
Oh, I can't
stand be up against the firing squad and let me know how that goes.
I can't stand those comments.
Yeah. And it's funny with what you're saying there, going back to that statement too. I go back to this hearing. I think it was May 25th when I call him Triple J was still the judge. When he was still on the bench for that
Didn't
one.
he retire like very shortly after the case
Immediately.
Yeah, it was like the next day. Okay, so
That's what
that
I'm
doesn't send you a little bit of a red flag.
Well, that's what I'm getting to right now, because the point that I'm
I
making,
think you knew that stuff may not have been going as presented.
there you go. So there's a hearing. I think it was May 25th. I can't remember exact date, so don't quote me on that, guys. But they're talking about all this stuff going on in this case and all the issues and so on and so forth. And he makes a statement and says, Your Honor, and Bill does one of his blow-ups. He turns purple and he starts stomping his feet like the baby that he is, in my opinion. And she says, Your Honor, you have no idea the difficulties, the issues, and that are going on within this situation. It's this, that, blah, blah, blah. And he looks directly at her, the judge does, and says, No, Miss Taylor, I do understand completely, and I feel for you. The venue's granted immediately, as I knew it would. And also understanding that Judge had the option to take this to Ada County and stay with it, like you just said, was gone and retired like within days of this and ran for the hills to get away from this. That speaks volumes to me, in my opinion. And then we come into effect with this new judge who walks in the door, like I said, in a scripted setting per se, and took over. It's just, it's like a bad movie, a B-rated movie that it makes no sense, but you want to follow it because you can't stop looking at it until you get some kind of answers out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I bet you there were a lot of conversations had between the two judges. It's very common. So if Sam and I have a case where, child support might be handled in one state and then the custody is handled in another state, it is very often that one judge will make an order that the two, or if there's like a motion to transfer venue and you're trying to figure out what the proper state is, those two judges will talk, right? And so I can't imagine that Judge did not have several conversations with Hippler. My guess, it was also a very short list of who they were willing to give the case to when transferred, because you have to have a judge that is qualified, that has tenure, has the respect. Qualified is obviously a subjective word, but it also has to be someone that will be able to handle the media scrutiny.
Yeah.
That's not going to fold and run and hide, because I'm guessing that there was a very high level of potential death threats or threats of harm. I mean, I just know this from other cases, and I don't know Hippler personally whatsoever. These are just our opinions and speculations, but you have to have someone that's willing to put themselves out there in a high level media case.
Sure. Yeah. And that's I get that. That makes a lot of sense. And they're, not to mention the people that have seemed to have run from this case. There are multiple law enforcement officers that just disappeared from Moscow.
Detach as far as they can from even being in Google with this case.
Absolutely. The chief retires, runs for sheriff, which didn't win, thank the Lord. And off he goes, disappears, and all of a sudden, poof, he's now a chief in Washington somewhere now again. All these police officers that retired, that just transferred to different jobs, so on and so forth. That's not a normal thing, you guys. That doesn't happen on a regular basis. This is typically a career job. I come from a law enforcement family that once you're in, you work for your 35 plus years and then you retire from the same place. You don't move around, like a 19-year-old kid at a new job. And
you don't get so many people moving around either.
Right. And it's so many. That's the insane part of this. So many. And they all ran from it, it looks like. Judges, attorneys, police officers, anybody involved in this, just poof, they're gone. And it's like, that's a red flag in itself. So
yeah, and whether or not the judge is given the automatic right to stay with the case, I think I saw a couple comments like that. Maybe True Crime Unleashed, I think there's something you asked. It depends, because sometimes the case is transferred to another state. I don't know the specifics if Judge was actually given the option to stay on this case, or if it was being Dago's telling me yes, and I am not privy to that information, but that if it's within the same state, yes, that is potential, but it is not automatic. It is not automatic. So I would
no, I don't believe it's automatic either.
It's not automatic at all, but considering that he not only declined it but retired the next day and got the F out of what. I think there was likely some speculation or concerns that he saw right off the bat.
And for him to make the statement to the defense that he made that day in that hearing, that
I wish he would have stayed on the case, though.
I truly think it would have been different in some ways if he would have. I don't think that he was anywhere near as biased as Hitler was on this. He wasn't leaning on the prosecution side of things at all. I think he was trying to be fair. He was trying to, and he knew the tension between the two sides. He called that, and said, I respect both sides of this and both of you. And I really wish you could keep this professional, all those kinds of things. And I'll have to say that the defense did seem to try to keep it professional. The prosecution was always stomping their feet, throwing their hands up in the air, having their little fits and temper tantrums. And then Bill goes and hides in the background and lets his little crony come out and do all the dirty work for him.
It's a matter of time before Bill retires too. It's a matter. I'm actually shocked he didn't do it the day after the plea agreement was entered.
Well, he said that he had already taken on a new term. He was elected into it. He was going to retire, and then he stayed on when he was reelected for this whole case, and now he's got till 28, I think. Please go retire. Go do your thing.
Please do the state of Idaho a favor and retire.
The only problem
I think that was actually I think that was the loophole with the defense that should have been attacked a little bit more was the incompetence of the prosecution, as evidenced by the last hearing where he says, "I didn't do this. I'm sorry." Actually, there was no apology. It was just I didn't do this within 60 days.
And he gets away with it. He gets away with this stuff all the time, you guys. That kills me.
Yeah, it's wild to me that the Idaho court system has not maybe encouraged an early retirement.
Well, it seems to be what they enjoy. I mean, this man, 30 plus years, working at in Latah County. I think he's only taken 3 cases.
That's a very low number.
Yeah, trial.
Okay, but I have a really good thing to bring up there, and I think it was.
Please do.
I think it was your show yesterday where you guys were showing the clips of Steve G's recent interview.
Yes.
Okay, so I watched that, and you guys brought up a great point. If Steve is literally attacking Thompson, right? That he wasn't the man for the job. They were making this complaint very, very early on, and he was a terrible attorney. Okay, but then it's also very real that this guy settled 95% of his cases, and there was a settlement, which was the plea. There was a stipulation to go over all of the agreed upon plea terms. That is what he's done for 30 years. So how do you go back and say, now if Steve was to say he was not ready to be a litigator, but he contradicts him so much. He says, we were okay with the plea deal. We just knew it had to be done in a right way, in the right manner, but he wasn't the right attorney to settle the case and do the plea deal. But by the way, he settled 99% of his cases. And I'm like, whoa, do you realize how this argument just goes in circles and it doesn't make any sense?
Contradictory all over the place. Exactly. And it's left and right. It's crazy. That's absolutely true. And I agree with that because like I said, I think it's 3 full cases Bill Thompson has taken all the way to the board. Okay. He's known as plea deal Bill for a reason. The man, that's all he's ever done. Okay. He never had to work for a living. He's never had to prosecute anything and actually put it on the table and say, here it is. Here's the case. Here's the deal. Move along. You know what I mean? That's what he does. And
it goes back to his statement very early on where someone asked if they should be afraid, because remember, this was early on when people were concerned that there might have been suspects that are still running loose. They haven't disclosed their name. And he says, well, I don't think anyone should be scared. Don't quote me on the exact verbiage, but I don't think anyone should be scared. But I say that knowing what I know, and that's not available to the whole public.
Right.
Interesting.
It is quite interesting. And all Bill did was, being the number one, everybody knows this too, that nothing happened unless it went through him. He was the be all end all, the one in charge, so on and so forth, which is crazy to me. I've never seen anything like this. I can't even express it, you guys. Is make sure that the media worked hard as they could to convict Brian in the public opinion. And that's how this happened, in my opinion, you guys. Brian, from the moment that they put handcuffs on him until the moment that at the sentencing hearing, the media, and they continue to do it, the media process of this and the propaganda train that has run nonstop to convict Brian of the homicide of these 4 victims is nothing. That's how this happened, period, in my opinion. The prosecution did nothing but support that and run that to the very end. And that's how this happened. fully. I will always believe that. So there's no denying that. You did nothing, Bill. You had no case. You stood up in the sentencing hearing and read the damn PCA back to us and maybe changed a couple words out that you yourself said was irrelevant in this case. But that's how you did this, okay? It doesn't make any sense at all. And I don't know how or why, and I don't know how it would work, but nobody from the Department of Justice has popped up and said, what the hell is going on over here? Why is this happening? And who in the hell are you guys? You know?
Yeah. Well, and I just like, can we have someone just say, like, we know this looks bad, but here's these reasons why we're still right. Like, it's nothing.
No.
You're not getting, no one's moving an inch. Fair enough. You guys don't want to be attacked, but like there's not even like an acknowledgement of how bad it looks from every single possible angle.
Nope.
All the way back to like, how did you get the probable cause with the IGG? Or, you know, Dylan's having another dream. Like, none of it adds up. And no one's even willing to say, like, we know it looks bad. We know it looks bad, but here's why you should believe us. Here's why we got it right.
Right.
Because there's nothing to be said. That's why they're not saying it.
They can't. There was absolutely, this is again, I'll say my opinion, but I have to base it on what I'm going to call a fact. They had no case. They had no case whatsoever that they would have been able to convict Brian. I believe they knew. And one of the statements, if you can say you believe or don't believe Steve Goncalves, but one of the statements he made in that Chris McDonough interview is where he stated that that Bill Thompson got down on his hands and knees and begged the defense to take the plea deal. I believe that. There's no way.
I believe it was I think they wanted to take that plea and they wanted to wrap it up before the evidence was dropped, because I think it was a matter of time before. Could you imagine? This is what I think everyone needs to think about. Could you guys imagine if we had this evidence dropping real time while these issues were going on, while the virtual hearings that we're all watching? Could you imagine what that would have created within the legal community? I think you would have a lot more lawyers speaking up. I think that you and people say, why didn't Ann do this? Why didn't Ann do this? Why didn't this attorney take this? You have to remember too, a lot of people, even attorneys, like Sam and I talked about doing this and really having some very serious conversations with ourselves, going, hey, this is going to give us exposure and it may not all be positive. You know, this could have some negative connotation with respect to us as lawyers, our careers that we have built our entire lives on. We decided it was important enough to do it, but a lot of people don't want to put themselves in the media and go get personally attacked every single time they give their legal analysis. You have to have really tough skin to get up here and do this every single day.
Yes.
Lucky for all of us, it sounds like we have really tough skin, but it is not for everyone. And just like we don't want people to assume that he was guilty because he accepted a plea deal, and we're trying to convince the masses that a lot of innocent people take plea deals because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, which is getting rid of the firing squad. It's the same token that we don't want to assume anything about why someone isn't talking about this, why someone, I mean, other than the mass media, they're going to probably very large amounts to speak of this. And Dago, have you realized that there's not anything new coming out from the media? They're just regurgitating stuff that's been coming out. I was watching your show last night. Again, I watched almost the entire one yesterday, where Nancy Gregg just so vehemently comes out, and I think she gets worse and worse every month. She must be going to classes for this, because it does get more vile. But she just brings up old stuff, recirculates old stories, and they're not talking about the evidence that was released last week.
No, because she doesn't. She's always been that way too. It's weird. She's disgusting. First off. The stuff she's saying is just getting worse. Yeah. She threw out that whole comment about the sprinkler system and this and that. And I was like, what did you just say? What is wrong with you? They have no morals. They have no morals at all anymore. You know, they've said some things that I can never imagine anybody saying, but yeah, she's so far behind on things. And then she'll come out like it's brand new information and just regurgitate.
How dare he come out and say he won't pay for their earn?
Right.
And that's like, wait, but that's not even what a hearing is about.
No,
like,
she was wrong.
Like she makes stuff up, and I'm like, this has to be approved by the network, or at least they have to give her a bulletproof. When Sam and I do shows and we're having to speak at higher levels, we get bullet points. We get like a little cheat sheet. So it is approved at some level of what the discussion is that they want to hear.
Well, it could point to the direction as to why she's not a prosecutor anymore. I would just say that much.
Oh, you're gonna send me down a Reddit rabbit hole.
Yeah, that could explain that. And she's got something dark hanging over her head. I'll just put it that way. She's
Yeah,
definitely,
I'm there with you. It's hard
and
to watch. It really
I
is.
hate having to go in and pull one of her shows to watch to review, but sometimes because the interviews of who she's interviewing, we have to go there and we have to put up with all that other. So I apologize to people all the time.
No,
Like,
I think it actually helps your case and your community, and I think
yeah.
it solicits a lot of conversation.
Yeah, we call her Nancy Disgrace over here because that's truly what she is. Because it's so sad. She's not helping, and she makes herself look bad to the families, in my opinion. You're not showing any kind of care for the case. You're just showing that you're. In my opinion, I've said this before. There's quite a few I have no love for. She's one, Ashley Banfield, and a few others out there that are here just to grab a paycheck with
I
their
agree. I
network.
think they're
And
just
it's not gonna help.
regurgitating a lot. I do
Yeah.
think Nancy must go to classes on how to get more angry.
And then she
yeah,
always throws her own personal situation into the middle of it every time. And it's like, this is not about you, Nancy. We're talking about 4 victims in another state that have nothing to do with you. Please stop. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to what I was saying initially about like the macro versus the micro, is that you're just hearing the same repetition, like he took a plea, so he must be guilty. DNA evidence, which everyone just automatically goes, well, that means, no one's looking at how it was obtained, whether or not there was probable cause, what type of DNA it was, the other DNA that would have been there. We're just ignoring all those things. So we just look at it on the macro, like we have someone that saw his bushy eyebrows that maybe have been in a dream state. There's DNA, so it must be him. And he took a plea, so it must be him. It's all macro. All the people that are questioning it, I would actually say all, but most, I guess, the people that are questioning it are the people that are looking at the micro of the evidence. And all of this is happening with basically, think about how many people truly believe that Brian is innocent. And we haven't heard anything from him. Like, this is all happening without really him ever even opening his mouth at all. So I think that's pretty significant. Like there's this whole human being who we don't even know what's going on in his mind or what information he has. And people are still coming to this and still coming to this conclusion by looking at specific pieces of evidence.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
I agree. The whole thing is just insane. And there, like I said, guys, there's so many more questions. I think, and if you mentioned it earlier, I would be absolutely honored if you would be willing to do 1 or 2 more of these shows where we could get more into what we've talked about. There's just so much to talk about with this case.
We can make it a whole series, Dago. Sam and I are totally down for that, and we would definitely love to have you on so we can combine the chats and get everyone going, because like you said earlier, there is room for everyone to shine in the YouTube creator world. I'm a firm believer that we don't need to tear other people down to have success and growth and development. I think that's what makes the whole environment so amazing. And I actually did a TikTok the other day calling out the whole true crime community with respect to the vile and threatening comments. I'm like, what happened to the fact that I can look at your TikTok and I can say, you know what? I see what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with it, but do you have something that supports your position? And that's how I try to respond to comments, even when they're really not very smart comments, but there's no stupid questions. And man, I will just get attacked. And then I'm like, I mean, now like I said, I can be a little shady back if I need to, but evidence. Follow the freaking evidence.
They are ruthless. And that's what I've said. Like, okay, I get that you don't think like I do.
We got Outcast in the room. Outcast, we've been throwing you some hype throughout this whole episode with your 911 call.
Yes, always. We wouldn't understand the 911 call, to be honest with you. I'll be honest, a real quick story. When they first dropped that on Channel 4, I was live and I said, oh, great, guys, the call's out. We pulled it up and ran it, and I went,
I would have never known either.
Okay. And he grabbed it immediately, and he was like, something ain't right. And he took it and did his magic. In my opinion, Outcast is the best audio guy on the tube right now. I'm grateful that he's in our community because he does some amazing things. We would not know certain truth.
We agree with you 1,000%. We love Outkast. Sam and I have talked about that we would actually fly him out to California if we needed an expert with respect, because with AI and stuff, there's so much fake. There's deep fakes with respect to domestic violence and audios and videos. I mean, you can make it so you recreate an entire fictional situation where I show up on a ring cam and I am attacking, my ex, and it's completely fake. But you have to now hire experts to prove it is. Like, that's the world we live in. And there are some really good deep fakes. There's not so other ones, like fakebaby.com that are easily detectable. Yes, that is that is real.
I didn't know that. I mean, I'm a musician as well, and I've dealt with sound, but I've never dealt with that stuff. Like what
I didn't know that either. I would have never saw it.
Yeah, and he said, he's like, Dago, there's so much stuff overlaid within these different audios and this call. He's like, it's a crazy dude, and he peeled everything back, and I'm like, what the hell? Where'd that come from? It don't even sound like the same call. You know what I mean? There's voices heard. There's things stated in the background. There's why did you cover all this up? That's what I want to know.
That's
and
$1 million question, Dago. Why did they cover it up? And so much of it didn't need to be covered up. It's all, but that's what Outkast really got. I mean, he was one of the original OGs that got me going down the rabbit holes. It's going, if they're lying about this, why?
Yeah.
Then you just start going down the rabbit hole, and Sam and I are like, man, there's a lot of misleading, redacted, not disclosed information. But hey, do you have anyone in your chat, Dago, that does anyone have like a timeline or not a timeline, like an Excel spreadsheet of how many people have left that either worked for an agency, worked for Moscow PD, and obviously these are just things that are common knowledge, or retired or moved away and basically don't have any social media.
I can imagine there probably is.
I would love to see how many people we could come up with respect to how, like, what percentage or how many people have disassociated themselves with this case, retired, left, whatever.
If there isn't right now, after you making that statement, I promise you there will be by tomorrow.
I would just love, I mean, if there's 100 people on that list, then that's.
If nobody in here has it, I can promise you that Lana probably does. Okay.
I bet you she does. She does incredible analysis. She really
forte,
does.
yes.
Whenever I want a breakdown of true inconsistent statements and stuff, I love going over and watching her. She does an incredible job.
Yeah. It's either Lana already has it. Lucy Morningstar, I don't know that she's in here. She's one of my mods too.
Hey, Lucy.
She may have it. She has a channel as well. If she doesn't have it, one of us will have it. Somebody will have it by tomorrow. I can almost guarantee.
And we could talk about that and we would love to just do this like on a recurring basis. We really enjoy you guys. Your questions were awesome. We love the comments. I
didn't even get to most what I wanted to, because we were so. We
needed to open this up. Growler. We'll have to do Growler next time.
Yeah, we needed to open this up, I think, and open everything up first, unpack it all, and then we can get the questions rolling. So however you want to do it, whenever you want to do it, I'm wide open. Whenever.
Sam would kill me if I booked it next week, because I did promise her we would have, at least 3 days off. But the following week we could probably get it on the books. Okay.
You let me know.
Kristen's just got to clear the rest of my work schedule, and we'll be all good. I know, that's all she's got to do is just cut off my other work, and I'll be there.
I know that's the problem, is we're still working full-time attorney jobs, and now this is turned into a second full-time job, but we are actually having a lot of fun, and there are so many brilliant minds out here that we're just really grateful to be part of something bigger than all of us.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get together with my crew as well, work on some tactics to work things out better. I was starring questions, but there were so many at one time. I threw a few out.
I was trying to go down the list, but I couldn't keep up either.
Well, you answered some of them as just in general conversation, so I had to unpin some of those, so on and so forth. And I mentioned yesterday, I said, if anybody had any specific questions or anything that you personally or purposely wanted to be analyzed specifically, but we didn't really prepare in that aspect. Next time we will be absolutely ready. have things ready to go so we can just boom, boom, boom with everything.
Yeah, we could do an entire FAQ session on one of the shows.
Yeah.
And yes, Kimmy Young 2447. I 1000% agree that AT should have hired some of the creators to help her out. I 1000% agree with you.
I think she made a reference to that one time.
She did. I think it was with respect to the alternate theory argument.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it would have been great for her, but it is what it is at this point. We'll just continue onward with what we're doing. I know for a fact that she watches a lot of us as well. She has, and I know the prosecution has as well. So we'll see what happens, guys. But again, I want to thank you because I don't want to drag you guys on too much longer. This has been amazing. Like I said, guys, we're just unpacking this together for the first time. I'm looking forward to anything else we can do together.
I will have our people reach out to your people, and we will get that set up ASAP. And like I said, we could do an entire FAQ session with the three of us of kind of going through, because believe it or not, Sam and I don't always agree. We usually come to the same conclusion, but our math can be a little different. But that's what makes the legal mind so brilliant.
That's what makes it interesting. Yes, absolutely. Well, again, ladies, thank you so much. Again, you're both amazing. You do amazing things on your channel. You've done amazing things on this channel today. Everybody is super, super, super happy that you came and joined us today, and I appreciate it so very much.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you for everyone. I've been watching your comments, and everyone's been so nice. So thank you so much. This has been really fun, and we'll definitely do it again soon.
Yeah, and make sure you head over to I know that Dago gives us lots of hype and lots of recommendations to check us out, but we would love to have you guys part of our community as well. And for anyone that is not liking this post, please take 2 seconds to like it. It helps Dago, it helps us, it helps the entire true crime community get in the algorithm. And if you are not tipping your host, you need to. He does such incredible work for this entire community. Thank you, Dago.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. And you guys have an amazing rest of your day. God bless, and I will see you guys both very soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Awesome, 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 guys. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to put as many questions out there, you guys. I just didn't want to overwhelm them. So much to talk about, guys. So much to talk about. And I'm super excited that we will be able to keep going with this. And I'm going to be here for a little bit longer, you guys. You don't have to leave yet. But